580 Sports Talk coming to you on a Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us as we've got plenty of Chiefs penultimate day in camp to get to. The Royals with a tremendous comeback that falls just a little bit short. Plus, we'll get into more discussion on one of the topics that we really haven't talked a whole lot about, but have been like the previous 5 years before this. We will get to all of that. Lots to discuss as well. Some college news coming in. So much to get to on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. As always, we want to know your thoughts. Hit us up on our text line, 785-272-9429. Also, check us out on our YouTube page. Very easy to get to. Go to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk, click the subscribe button, and you can interact with us. Leave us a comment, leave us a note, an insult, if you will.
Don't insult me.
We are ready for all of it.
I'm not going to invite that. Do not insult me. If you want to insult the other two, go for it. I am not willingly subjecting myself to that.
So plenty to get to. Tim Fitzgerald from Go Power Cat will join us. We're going to hear from Dave Tobe, a few of the assistant coaches today. So plenty to discuss on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Great comeback last night for the Royals. Not going to lie to you.
Didn't finish it. Doesn't matter.
Is it considered a comeback?
It's a rally, but it's not a comeback because they didn't take the lead.
Yeah. To me, it's not
maybe
a comeback.
could have if Dyron Blanco didn't have a brain cramp going first to third.
That hurts.
In the ninth inning, get the winning run 90 feet away with somebody who can really fly, but you don't get that chance because he cruised into third base somehow. They were lucky. They were lucky the tying run counted. If it had been anybody other than Bobby Witt Jr. running, the eighth run probably wouldn't have counted.
It doesn't count as a comeback because you didn't come back and win.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You got it to even.
It's a rally. You rallied to tie the game.
A comeback involves that you came back and then you ended up winning.
I was going to say they came back. It was not a comeback.
I got one time I was talking with Ron McHenry, former coach of the Washburn women's basketball team. I said, "Man, that was a great comeback." And man, he looked at me like, "What comeback? We didn't win. It's not a comeback." And I was like, Right on. Glad we're all in agreement on that. So hit us up. Let us know your thoughts on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. All right. I thought the most interesting thing that happened today for the Kansas City Chiefs did not involve anything on the field. It had nothing to do with Patrick Mahomes. It had nothing to do with Travis Kelce still apparently angry at the defensive players trying to bat the ball out of people's hands, which I have now concluded that is something the coach has told the defense to do. Once is okay, defense being defense, Twice, maybe a guy's just trying to get under your skin. Nah, man, this is like the fourth or fifth time. This is specifically set for the Chiefs offense to work on this. The Chiefs, either offensive coaches or the defensive coaches, said, do this repeatedly because Travis Kelce a little bit fired up today again when people trying to bat the ball out of his hands, his teammates' hands, all of that. Had nothing to do with that. None of that. It was what assistant GM Mike Borgonzi had to say today to the media. And he said this on Kadarius Toney's injury return. We're not going to rush it. I don't think we have any expectations right now. We're just going to take it day by day and see how he is, end quote. All right, there's a lot to that. First of all, anytime I hear day by day coming from a Chiefs power broker, I get flashbacks of Eric Berry.
Sadly, okay? I think Kadarius Toney's career might be over.
You know what I mean?
Every coach,
right?
Every coach or front office, they all have a tell. And when they're trying to say that something is, they're just trying to downplay it a little bit. But there are certain words, like from the Chiefs, it is definitely day by day. Pete Carroll, famously, if he refers to an injury as being a legit thing, that player is probably on their deathbed. If he says a legit hamstring injury, that means that that player may have to have a leg amputated. So, day by day gives you the willies a little bit when you hear that from the Chiefs.
So that's the first thing that I noticed right away. I mean, right away was we'll take it day by day. And then I got the willies.
Well, and then that's also a departure from what we heard 2 weeks ago. And I think it was an ESPN report that he was hoping to be ready by week 1.
It's not just 2 weeks ago. It was from the get-go, and that is, we're not going to rush it. We know that, but I don't think we have any expectations right now. That is completely different. So either one, this is a change in what's happening, whether or not it didn't go as well, or they weren't. Clearly, to me, this is one guy is not on the same timeline as Andy Reid, because Andy Reid has said, we hopefully to get better by week 1. When the Chiefs don't have the same rowing in the same boat, the same discussion, that means somebody's lying, because most of the time everybody's in lockstep. But if you got disagreements on your number one wide receiver on when he's going to return, that means somebody's lying. Somebody's trying to cover things up. And if I had to say who's going to try to cover something up, it's going to be Andy Reid. So when Andy Reid said we're a month away, or we think he's going to be ready by day 1, I think that's just trying to be, put that out there. I think this is more of indicative of what's going to happen. I truly believe this. So I think that now we are looking at Kadarius Toney might not be ready for week number 1. If they don't have any expectations right now, then I don't see him being ready for week 1, which I am completely different maybe among you guys. I don't want Kadarius Toney to play week number 1. I really don't. I think Kadarius Toney has got so many reps in him, and I don't want to burn them on the Detroit Lions. I don't want to burn them on, he might be back. Okay. If this were Isaiah Pacheco, or if this were, Travis Kelce and all that, if he's 100%, fire away. Let's go. Get him on the field. Let's do this. Maybe Pacheco a bad example because he's already hurt right now. But like a Travis Kelce or an MVS, or
Pacheco's at least doing drills.
You know what I mean?
He just has to be clear for contact.
So,
that's a distinction.
Sure.
And Pacheco doesn't have a history of injury problems that Toney had. I just don't want to waste him. This is a 20-game season. That's a long time. If I were to ask you, hey, 14 games for Kadarius Toney, you take it?
14 of 20 or 14 of the 17 in the regular season?
Let's do 14 of 17 in the regular season.
Oh, yeah. Without
you
question.
take that in a heartbeat.
I take that from anyone,
You take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, the issue is, okay, if you got to keep him on the roster in order to put him on the IR to bring him back after 4 weeks.
Yes, correct.
That's what you have to do. You put him on IR now, he's done for the year.
Yes.
So he's going to make the 53-man roster. But a part of me says, if he's not ready for week 1, I don't know that you need him to beat the Jags or to beat the Lions week 3. The Jets would be helpful week 3. That is a game that I think you're going to need. I just, to me, this is something completely different than what we've been told prior to what Mike Borgonzi had to say. And I don't think it's all that terrible. Plus, that allows you to keep somebody else, because you keep them on the 53, you can cut. And going through the roster, I've got 26 guys on the offense right now, 23, 24 guys on the defensive side. Menahu doesn't count as a guy. You don't even need to put him on your 53 because he's suspended. So he will be suspended. And then once he comes off suspension, then you boot somebody off the 53 to bring Menahu on there. So essentially you got a 54-man roster at this point in time for the Kansas City Chiefs. This could be somebody that you keep like a Blake Bell or like a Danny Shelton if you think he's going to be good enough, because then they don't have to go through waivers. You can have, a little an accord off to the side. Hey, we're going to cut you, but we'd like to keep you. And then you can keep that guy till week 4. So I do think that this makes it a little bit more interesting with roster construction, because if he's not going to be ready for week 1, then I would just kind of get him ready for the latter part of the season.
So I view it differently regard to the start of the season, I wouldn't say that I don't want him to play week 1, because I think if you're talking about we want our best 46 guys active on game day.
And every game counts too.
Yeah.
Like you can't say, well, week 1 doesn't matter as much as week 16. I mean, maybe the stakes.
It's more about the opponent.
The stakes
It's
might
more about the opponent.
I still don't think so, because I mean, the Chiefs tricking off that game against the Colts in week 3 last year almost cost them home field advantage. If you're trying to get home field advantage and the bye, especially now there's only one bye in the playoffs, you can't trick off week 2 and no matter who it's against and just say, well, this didn't really matter. You know, we'll be at our best November, December. And yeah, you will be, but that bye is so important and home field advantage is so important. And the Chiefs are as aware of this as anybody, because the AFC Championship game has gone through Arrowhead the last 5 years.
Yeah, but they've lost 2 of those. They're 2-2.
They've also won 3.
Yeah, 3-2. Beg your pardon.
Yeah, you'd still rather play them at home than have to go on the road. You'd much rather play them at home. So I think the Chiefs prioritize that, and their thought is to get home field advantage in what again stands to be a very difficult conference, with Buffalo very good again, with Cincinnati very good again, with the chance that somebody else takes a big stride forward this year. Who knows? Maybe that's Miami. Maybe that's Cleveland's got a really good roster if Deshaun Watson can play anymore at all, which I hope not.
Do you believe in Baltimore with the new offensive coordinator?
Right. San Diego, Los Angeles, the Chargers. Is this the year that they're actually what everybody thinks they're going to be? Probably not, but maybe. Like, you have to, I think, if you're the Chiefs, say, every one of these games matters, because we don't want to be in a spot where we're 13-4 at the end of this and we needed to be 14-3 and we lost a game because we put Kadarius Toney on an unnecessary pitch count for the first 3 weeks.
I do think I am in agreement, though. Like, you're in all likelihood, you're not getting a full season out of Kadarius Toney. One way or the other, he's going to end up missing a few games. So I understand that part completely. I would just change the argument, I think, to I'd rather have him out there as soon as possible, because look, if the injury is going to come, and again, God willing, he won't, and this is it, and he's going to be healthy forever.
It's gonna happen.
Well, I know, but I would rather just say, well, let's get him out there and use him as much as we can, as opposed to, well, let's wait, and then eventually we'll use him. Because what happens if you wait 6 weeks and then he gets hurt, and you could have brought him back in 4, and then you lose him 2 weeks later? Well, you could have had him for 4 weeks, you only got him for 2. So I think I'm kind of at a middle ground here. I will say one other option they have. I literally did not know this rule change until right now, and I'm reading it direct from NFL.com. The PUP list has been changed. You now only have to miss 4 weeks to start the season if you start the year on the PUP list after cutdown days. Used to be 6 going into last year. And yeah,
but I didn't think he's on the PUP, because you have to start you can't participate in any training camp to be on the PUP list.
Is that the case?
I thought in order to be like, that's why they took Turk Wharton off PUP
so he could practice.
So he can practice.
Okay.
And he can do it. I think you only can be on the PUP list if it's before, because he did participate in camp. Granted, it was before the first rep, because he did it in the special teams period, returning punts. I think that's only if you come into camp on the PUP list.
Is that how it works?
Because then I think you go on IR after that, and then you have to be out for, you can put as many guys as you want on IR, and they have to wait 4 days. Or 4 days. That would be kind of nice. 4 weeks.
That rule has changed too, by the way. No team is going to use this many, but you actually only get 8 now.
You only get 8. Okay.
It's not unlimited. Yeah. I think that's this year. That's a new change. So either way, you've got flexibility with this. And if that is the rule for the PUP, and I'll have to double check on that. Okay, well, then you have to do the IR route. If you can add someone later to the physical and able to perform list, that makes it even easier to keep that extra guy. So you've got the flexibility.
Yeah. And the only way that it works roster-wise is if you do end up keeping him on the 53 and then putting him on IR. That's the only way that it works to get an extra veteran guy. If you think Danny Shelton, if you think a Blake Bell, when it comes to the roster. The other thing too, roster-wise, do you keep 3 quarterbacks this year? Because last year, let's be honest. Hindsight's always 20/20. We understand that. Keeping Shane Buechele last year, if he's not the backup this year, I mean, he basically played with a 52-man roster last year. A part of me is like, all right, pick a quarterback and go with it. Who is really going to take Shane Buechele off the practice squad? And if you lose Shane Buechele, is that a huge deal? I think for me, you and put him on the practice squad. Once he clears waivers, then you can get him on the practice squad. Then you protect him on the practice squad. Then you don't have to worry about, do you think he makes it through waivers? Because then I look at this, who would be more valuable to the Chiefs on their opening 53-man roster if you're not too concerned about Shane Buechele? Backup defensive tackle, another tight end, another running back. Like I see all the roster projections about Shane Buechele making the 53. Do you really need to waste a roster spot on a guy who I don't think is going to be the backup quarterback?
How worried are you about Patrick Mahomes getting hurt?
Well,
not necessarily you, but like if you're Andy Reid, how worried are you about that? Because he has been banged up or missed time a couple of times.
Is it Mahomes or is it Mahomes and Gabbert? Because if Mahomes is hurt, to quote the great Howard Mudd, we're screwed. Like you're not like the Chiefs, right? We're here to win Super Bowls, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go to the Super Bowl is the expectation to me. Every year the expectation is get to the Super Bowl. If you win it, great. If you don't, but if you get to the Super Bowl, it's a great year. The Chiefs have already won 2 Super Bowls. It's not like this year the Bills, it's Super Bowl or bust. Win. Super Bowl win or it ain't a good season. You're right. They gotta win one. Same thing for the Bengals. You gotta win one. Just getting there for the Bengals ain't good enough anymore. You gotta win one. The Chiefs, just getting there is fine to me. You've won a couple, give yourself an opportunity. But if Mahomes is hurt, they ain't winning the dang thing with Gabbert or Buechele. That's why, to me, the Mahomes injury is not a huge deal. It's, are you worried that if, Mahomes gets hurt, then Gabbert comes in, and then if Gabbert gets hurt, we're going to roll with Shane Buechele. I mean, you're just screwed, in my opinion. That's why I'm not a huge keep 3 quarterbacks on the roster guy when your quarterback is Mahomes and he is the sole, Matt Verderame was saying if Joe Burrow goes down, is still down, and Trevor Siemian has to do it, yikes.
But isn't that every team in the league?
That's why. So why do you need 3 quarterbacks? Because of what happened to the 49ers?
I mean, yeah,
that's exactly
I think that
why.
Is exactly the logic,
that's the break glass in case of emergency scenario. Well,
if that's the case, then put him on the practice squad, protect him, and if he doesn't clear waivers, then go get another Shane Buechele.
I logically agree with you. Let me preface with that. I logically agree with you. Andy Reid does not. Like if Andy Reid is going to have the break glass in case of emergency guy, who do you think he'd rather go with? Well, we'll find, we'll go grab Josh Johnson, or we're going to have a guy who has been with us for, 3 years now, who knows the playbook. He might not be able to execute it, but he knows it. Andy Reid, I believe, in what I know about him, would rather go with the guy who's been around.
Well, I can't believe I'm missing his name. Matt Moore. Matt Moore was there for 2 weeks. He was 2 weeks, or not 2 weeks, a month, because Henny got hurt in the end of the preseason, and he was there for essentially 4 weeks, and he was the quarterback.
Wasn't Moore with them in the preseason that year?
I thought Henny got hurt at the end of preseason, and then they brought him on after.
He signed with he signed with the Chiefs in August. So he signed. The injury to Henny was during the preseason.
Yeah, during the preseason.
So he joined them during camp. Yeah. Well, actually, technically after camp. It was August 26th.
It was like after preseason game, like 3 or something like that.
He was with the team for about 7 weeks when he had to come in and play against Denver. So I
remember that.
No,
Chris Harris like, man, he ran a crossover wheel route, Tyreek Hill. I'll never forget that. That was hilarious.
Now, again, I agree with where you're coming from. And what happened to the 49ers was such an unbelievable thing because it doesn't that doesn't happen. The only time
don't prepare for the outlier.
By the way, that quote was Tom Moore.
Tom Moore. What did I say?
Howard Mudd was the O-line coach.
Yeah,
Tom Moore was the OC.
You can believe either one of them would say that quote.
Yeah,
We don't prepare for you know what.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with you. Again, I think it makes sense. I think if you get down to your third string quarterback, well, I mean, what are you going to do?
Do you think Shane Buechele clears waivers?
That's a good question. I think that he's probably good enough to be somebody's number 2. I think he's put enough good stuff on film that if you feel like he's better than the number 2 you got,
is better than number 2. They have to learn a new offense, new playbook. But you don't.
Or if you're going to keep 3 quarterbacks, you really like him to be your 3rd guy that you keep on the roster.
Yeah, I would guess at this point the answer would be yes, he would clear waivers.
I think so too.
And I think that's because if you're another team that needs a backup or a 3rd stringer and you say, well, the Chiefs kept him around intentionally. They protected him on the roster intentionally to try to keep him long term, and then decided a year later they don't want to necessarily lock in that they're keeping him long term. I'm not really interested anymore. That would be if I was an opposing pro personnel director, how I would approach that. But I don't know.
That's a good point.
I mean, if you really believe it, and if you want to do like what Josh McDaniels does and just try to recreate the Patriots like out of paper mache, maybe you just say we want to be the Chiefs, and we're just going to take every free agent.
We're going to bring Chiefs culture into our building.
Yeah. God, why can't we recreate having the best quarterback in football? God, this culture thing is hard.
That's why every Patriot assistant is not worth.
Romeo Crennel, Josh McDaniels the first time,
Matt
Josh
Patricia.
McDaniels the second time. Matt Patricia.
Oh God, who was the man genius?
Yeah, the man
Eric
genius.
Mangini.
The man genius.
I think the man genius got a little screwed over.
Charlie
I
Wise.
think he deserved another chance.
KU legend
Joe
Charlie
Judge.
Joe Judge.
Joe Judge.
And then he and Matt Patricia ran the offense for the Patriots last year.
Yeah.
And unsurprisingly, it was a puddle of dog diarrhea.
Did not do well.
For 17
Did
games.
not do well.
What happens if you let a former defensive coordinator and a former special teams coordinator coach a second-year quarterback? The results, folks,
Nothing good.
might shock you.
You get Bailey Zappi. Coming up, we will get to a question that I've got some scar tissue from a year ago. And it involves the team that the Chiefs play coming up Saturday. We'll get to that. We'll hear from Dave Tobe, and we'll get to a little college news here on this edition of 580. tissue is a real thing when it comes to fandom. Okay.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the hit 2003 single from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. 2003?
Not their. No, I think it's before that.
I couldn't remember which album that came
Is
from.
that on the Californication album?
It is.
That's 2003.
No,
I thought it was earlier than that. I was like,
No,
2001.
It has to be my sophomore, junior year in high school, like 02, 03.
It was.
all right.
I don't remember it happening my senior year of high school.
All right. So, Californication, probably their best. Yeah, that was the lead single, 1999.
99.
Yeah,
okay.
I knew it was
A little
earlier than that. Yeah.
I think that might be my favorite album of theirs. Although Blood Sugar Sex Magic is great.
Well, that's got their best song.
Yeah.
Which is?
Under the Bridge. Fantastic.
Sir Psycho Sexy, Suck My Kiss. Those are both on that album.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Great band.
Careful.
Yeah, I'm not going to read any of the lyrics from those. But...
Fun fact about
Give It Away is their best song.
That's a good
Oh,
one.
no.
Whoa, I would not.
Awful take. No, I cannot agree with that take. Every time I hear it on the radio, I got to turn it off. I can't do it.
What?
I cannot do it. Like,
I'm glad there's glass separating.
we
you
get it,
two.
Anthony. You got to give it away now. I get it. Like, come
Give
up
it
with a new
away.
lyric.
Give it
The
away.
last 2 minutes of the song.
Give it away now.
One of the great Simpsons moments. What if instead you said, what I'd like is that I'd like to hug and kiss you? Wow, that's way better.
The Chili Peppers, great band. Heard they're not great live. Never seen them live. Heard they're not the greatest.
See, I enjoyed their live show.
Did you? I've
Yeah.
not seen them.
I saw them at Lollapalooza one summer. It would have been 2014, I think, or maybe 2012. And I sang Under the Bridge with the rest of the crowd. It was great. It was one of those like, oh my God, I can't believe I get to do this concert experiences. I got my voice to hit the same note as Anthony Kiedis's in the crowd. That part, I have never gotten it to that level again. It permanently, I think, damaged the vocal cord.
Did. I think you just
Like,
did.
I could get all the way there, and now I can't do it. My voice just kind of peters out.
Fun fact, we were having a party at my residence in college, and one of my friends was the one in charge of letting people in and out of the party.
Nice.
And a Chili Pepper song was playing, and he was really hyped about it. And someone walked in, or someone was getting ready to come into the party, and he just asked, "Do you like the Chili Peppers?" And the guy was like, "No, not really. I think they're overrated." He wouldn't let him in.
That's pretty funny.
He wouldn't let him in. It was so funny. Oh, I laughed so hard. Anyway, Scar Tissue, real thing. Song and, the
And vibe, yeah.
the history of your fan base, right? I'm a little bit scared of what's going to happen on Saturday, because they're going to play in Arizona.
Mhm.
Everybody complains about playing in Arizona. It's not just the Eagles players who completely whined and cried this offseason about the turf.
Yeah, Dan, what are your thoughts on State Farm Stadium?
I think it should be a smoking crater in the ground. I would love for it to be nuked off the face of the earth.
I think
What
a
about-
Seahawk gets hurt there literally every year.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like we
Also,
saw,
Super Bowl 49 happened there.
yeah, no, that turf is different because that turf is taken over by the NFL.
Harrison Butker last year.
But yes, Harrison Butker and but it's just everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody complains about it. It's like playing at the saucer that landed on top of Soldier Field. It's like playing at Soldier Field. Nobody likes that turf. Nobody does.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I'm like, man, I really don't want, a bunch of guys to play on that crap turf, because it wasn't just the Chiefs. It was the week after. All the people complained about that, like,
yeah,
everyone does. So I got a little bit of PTSD coming into this game coming up on Saturday, where honestly, the number one thing is I don't want anybody to have any issues with, the turf. Trent McDuffie.
He got hurt there
He
last
got
year.
hurt at his hamstring. I don't know if he planted wrong or not. Now, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of potentially having a bunch of important people play on that field of grass. Am I overreacting?
No, I mean, I don't think you're overreacting to just say, I don't want to play on it. But by the same token, there's not really anything anyone can do about it.
Yeah, well, you're not moving a game to Sun Devil Stadium.
Well, you just don't play them.
Well, I mean, yeah, that would be great, but I don't think at this point the Chiefs have a choice.
Are bad turf surfaces, are those the OSHA violation? Unsafe workplace?
There is
Should
someone
be.
out there. There is a college football fan for sure. Some college football fan bases absolutely tried to do that before, like call OSHA about bad turf. I'm certain of it.
That's all I want to point out is if anybody gets hurt because of slipping and falling, you heard it here first. I'm gonna be scared. I'm gonna.
Fair enough.
I'm just putting it out there.
Hopefully nothing happens.
Yeah.
Hopefully everyone's fine.
And we can. There should be a law to play Arizona 3 times in less than a year.
I do believe that the NFL should step in and have a base level grass or turf mandate. It should be natural grass, but they should step in and
Is it just
monitor
me,
it.
or is it over the last year more and more NFL players are speaking out on this?
Oh, definitely. Yeah,
Like-
lots of them.
But more than the normal.
I agree. Yeah.
Hey, I've said this a quadrillion times. If you can play on turf or grass, as long as the grass is the good grass, regular grass is way better.
Yeah.
It is it's so much better.
Yeah.
It's I guarantee you'd have fewer concussions, fewer injuries, the whole gamut. If we can put a man on the moon, we should be able to grow grass inside.
Yeah. I mean, there are places all over the world that have well
That's
maintained
what I'm
and
saying.
manicured stuff like that. You know, the Raiders do that. The Raiders turf, I believe, or I think theirs is a hybrid. It's not true turf. Theirs is grown indoors, I believe.
Whatever you got, I am not a botanist. All right.
The Packers one is what they use for the grass turf hybrid they use that keeps it alive during the winter. Is they use that at some European soccer stadiums.
Great. Do that everywhere. Get rid of the turf.
I think
Like,
the issue
for high school, fine, because it's cost effective there.
Yeah.
But turf at, especially outdoor, like the Baltimore Ravens, right? They have an outdoor stadium that's turf. What is that? That's garbage.
I don't
Thank
know
you
what
for
to tell
listening to my TED Talk. I appreciate it. Coming up next, we're going to hear from Dave Tobe and defensive line coach. We will get to Coach Cullen and Dave Tobe coming up next.
We have evolved beyond the need for this song. In 1991, this song had its place. It had its purpose. 10 years later, for a new generation of rock and roll fans, this song had its purpose. It is 2023. The song has been out for 32 years. We have evolved beyond the need for it.
Wow, it has been out for 32 years. That makes me feel old.
Give it away, give it away, give it away.
I got it, Anthony. You've been giving it away for 3 decades, bro.
So are you?
That song's got a mortgage, man.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. So are we anti-repeating? So if that's the case, you do not like Bill Withers songs.
No,
I know. I get it, Bill. We know.
You know, put a pin in that. We're gonna workshop that. I particularly just mean give it away.
Okay,
but
good.
But you know what?
Okay.
I'm gonna take note of that. I'm gonna revisit this at some point. We'll regroup.
Then how many times
repetitive
does he
song.
say the word "I know"? I think it's like 30 or something like that.
There are a lot of songs that have repetition that are good.
Why don't we look up some Bill Withers facts?
26 times he says the word "I know" in a row.
Fewer times than the number of years that Blood Sugar Sex Magic has been out.
I know. By the way, that's a good song. There will be
Sure.
no Bill Withers.
No, Bill Withers.
Okay?
Bill Withers, good money here.
Yeah, good money. Okay, as long as we know that. I was just making a joke about. That was the first song that I could think of that. Okay, do we hate the words? Better example. Came out right around the same time. Yeah.
That came out in 03.
That's 2003.
Yeah.
That song's
definitely
20 years old.
Yeah.
20 years old. That song can almost.
Yeah.
That song can vote.
Yeah.
That song can almost drink.
Yeah.
20 years old.
Yeah.
I used to. I have one of my good friends who she works for KU now. We one summer we were the only two people we knew in town. So we went to the bars like every night. We hung out at Louise's in Lawrence like every night.
Schooners.
And we heard that song nightly. Like about 9:30 every night.
Smash.
And I used to lean over to her every night and say, white girls love this song. And she would say, you love this song. And say, I do. White boys like it too. I'm just telling you, white girls love this song.
I'm a big hit at parties because anytime that song will come on, will lean over to the person next to me and say, shortstop Royce Clayton used this as his hitting music for the 2003 Colorado Rockies.
Yeah. That one and Dirt Off My Shoulder. Big songs in 03. By one Jay-Z.
Yeah, I would agree.
Not both by Jay-Z, just that one.
Just that one by Jay-Z.
Correct. Hey, by the way, real quick, while we're talking about music, Dan, do you remember the time that Jake said he hated Luther Vandross, and then immediately after said that Teddy Pendergrass was just knockoff Luther Vandross?
He said he was great value. I've never been more offended in my life.
Yeah.
I've thought about that.
Your dad loves Luther Vandross.
Yes, my dad is a huge Luther Vandross fan. My dad loves Luther.
We were driving home from the Shrine Bowl this year. Just
I had the aux cord,
and
I thought we'd put on a little Luther.
Yeah,
it was great.
No.
Right after Jake said we were listening to the Forrest Gump soundtrack, it was just like rock hits of the 70s.
Yeah,
it was totally.
So I was so offended. I said, "Let's try something else." I put on like an Earth, Wind, and Fire playlist because who doesn't like that? And one of the songs that came up with Luther Vandross. Yeah. And you said disparaging things about Luther Vandross that are false. That are false. And so verifiably false. And so then I said, all right, how about a little Love TKO by Teddy Pendergrass? And you said even meaner things about Teddy Pendergrass.
Every single day since then, I have thought about this. For the last month, I have thought about this.
My takes on Luther and Teddy are what Brendan has for Give It Away Now. So we can...
apparently so.
We can agree on that.
Great music.
I still stand by that. What did Dave Tobe had to say today to the media?
What do you think he thinks of Luther Vandross?
I bet he likes him.
I bet he's a fan.
I bet he likes him.
If I had to guess, he's a fan.
Here's what Dave Tobe had to say to the media today.
Go ahead, fire away.
The game the other day, the game in New Orleans.
Yeah, everybody played. That was the thing. I mean, that's one of the important things in that first game. Coach wants everybody to play. So you've seen a lot of bodies. Like we had 4 different teams on going every time, and Everybody played, so we were happy with that. The effort was excellent. I thought the guys played extremely hard. There's in the return game, I like to see Prince get some more. I mean, we left the guy unblocked in the first one, and he got hit on that one. Then it kind of kicked away from him on the other one, coming back across the field. So I still want to see him. I want to see him get some more next week. James, I thought, did a great job, on his kick return. Didn't get any opportunities on punt return with the ones, but hopefully we'll get something this week. Other than that, I mean, I like Nick Jones. I thought showed up, did a good job. He hurt his hand, obviously, but he'll be back. Other guys like Anthony Cook did a nice job. Number 47 showed up. These are some new faces. Cam Jones, number 44, did a nice job. But I just think our ones, they came out a little bit sluggish. I'm talking about my ones as well. And, we need to have a better showing this week.
Arizona, you guys have had questionable service all the time. Do you guys change anything for that for this preseason?
No, we don't change anything. I think they're going to have, there's so much talk and so much focus on the field. I'm pretty sure they're going to have that, in pretty good shape. They've been playing on it, and I haven't heard, anything negative really. So
I mean, we haven't had a kickoff in the regular season yet. It looks like everyone's returning kicks.
Yeah.
In the preseason, this is the time to do that.
That's
Have any
right.
guess yet what's going to happen in the regular season
I
league-wide?
think there's going to be more fair catches on those high kicks for sure. I think you have to play the analytic game, and if you want to help your team get them out to the 25 and automatically, you still have to make the fair catch and you have to block everybody up. I mean, they're going to be coming down the field and coming hard. If we bobble it, I mean, it's you're taking a chance there. So, but I think there'll be more fair catches for sure. I think there'll be more squib kicks though too at the same time. You've seen Saints working on that against us, and we didn't handle it great. 82 back there kind of didn't pick it up cleanly. So you'll see more squibs. You'll see more fair catches. I think for sure, no question.
Is that something you want to do too? I know you had a high kick the other day too.
Yeah, I mean we're working on Bucker's high kick down to the goal line. We know guys want to return. I'm trying to evaluate our kickoff team right now, and we know that teams aren't going to fair catch it now. And the best thing to do is take a high kick down to the goal line, so you can create hang time to let your guys get down the field to be able to cover it. So that's why we did it. We'll do that during the season as well, rather than just Bucker can bang a touchback pretty much any time he wants. But now you want to try to make them make a play at least. If they want to get the ball at 25, make them kick it high, or we'll kick it high and make them make a fair catch. And, they're still going to only get it at the 25, just like you would do if you were kicking a touchback. So it's something that, we're looking at for sure.
There's an uptick in swim kicks. Is there a case that maybe that's potentially more dangerous?
Yeah, there is. I mean, that's the decision that was made. I mean, is they put the rule in, and we told them what teams are going to do. There's going to be more squibs. If you want to force a team to return the ball, you have to squib it. Because if you can kick a high one, they can fair catch it, get it out to the 25. So
Squibbing kicks. How about that? Completely different this year potentially.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that, but I kind of love it. Like, teams are going to find a way to keep that in the game and to try to keep other teams from getting the ball at the 25-yard line. And based on the amount of preseason football I watched this past weekend, which was a lot, I watched a game every day, at least a couple games every day. If teams are forced to return kicks with who their current kick returners are, there might not be a single team that has an average field position past the 20 all year. It was bad.
Yeah,
every game I watched, guys were getting tackled inside the 20. So
including the Chiefs.
I feel dumb that I did not think of more squib kicks, but I kind of love it.
Yeah, I mean that's the reason why you had to hammer it off the ground in order to bounce it high in the air, so you couldn't call a fair catch because it hit the ground first. So that's why it was the old free for all.
Yeah.
So
I'm all about it.
I am team fair catch it. I don't need to return it.
You think it's going to be Prince and who else is the returners?
Richie James.
Richie James. Yeah. Probably. I mean, he's got actual experience, which is something no one had last year.
No, I don't think they're going to put Pacheco or McDuffie back there.
No.
Tony on punts, maybe for the big games, for the big occasions, kind of like a break glass in case sort of deal like Tyreek Hill was in those spots.
You can see it. I could definitely see that. It should be a slightly better returner group than the Chiefs had last year. Although, did Prince return kicks at all in college?
I don't know.
We're about to find out.
I don't know.
Remigio did, which is why
Yeah.
it's such a bummer that he's hurt because he really
Yeah.
could have factored in there.
Well, he's going to go on IR. So
Well, yeah, but it'd be nice to have him. Okay. Deneric Prince did indeed return kicks. In 2020, his sophomore year at Tulsa, he returned 4 kicks. That's it.
Now, that's still more experience than Sky Moore had returning punts.
Yeah, right.
how'd that work out? It worked out great is what it did because he helped return a big punt in the title game to set up Mahomes getting shoved out of bounds. Fantastic.
Yeah.
We'll get a timeout. We'll wrap up this 2:00 hour. Coming up, we got a lot more to get to, but who's ready to get hot in here? We're going to get to that next.
Lions Ranch.
Who's ready to wear their Air Force Ones? And it might get a little hot in here at AT&T Stadium. How about this?
So ride with me to the Big 12 championship game, buddy. Woo!
Nelly will perform a Super Bowl-like halftime show on ABC at the Big 12 title game December 2nd at AT&T Stadium.
Complete with wardrobe malfunction.
Here's the thing. This is smart because the average fan who's probably going to go there is going to be around, 35 to 45. Everybody loved Nelly at my age. I'm telling you.
Nelly is classic hits. Now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
we
Nelly
talked
rules.
about this the other day, like Pearl Jam now. Like you asked,
Nelly is a nostalgia act.
yes, Pearl Jam, classic rock right now. Like, I think classic rock is, like the Stones.
I think that's still classic rock. That is a much broader discussion than we have the time for. But I think classic rock is still definitively like the rock of the 60s and 70s.
Okay.
I still think that sound is classic rock. But I don't know. Maybe
Because the time frame is what we considered classic rock when I was that age, was the 60s and 70s. Now
I still think there's a sound that is classic rock, and it's that 60s, 70s
Okay.
sound more so than it's like even flow.
No, I hear what you're saying.
but they are. It's works.
Yeah, if I were programming a classic rock radio station, I'd probably play Jeremy now.
Yeah, like you're not gonna
Sneak "What's My Age Again" in there.
if you were the Big 12, you're not gonna put Lil Durk in there to perform at half.
Man, they should.
Wow.
All right. No. I'm sorry.
Not your guy G Herbo?
Not G Herbo or Big Tweezy or any of that. All right. Now, if you want to do a hip hop person, put Lil Wayne in there and just have him do the Carter, and that'd be lit. It would be awesome, fantastic. All right.
There's Jake's favorite hip hop
I was
reference.
gonna say
There we go.
I think you're showing your age a little bit.
That's all right. Coming up in the 3:00 hour, we'll talk a little bit about the Royals. on 580 Sports Talk. Thank you so much for joining us. Jacob on, Brendan Dorzinski, Dan Lucero with you. I'm excited. I'm really excited for this hour.
I'm so excited, and I just can't hide it.
Correct.
Like, what's her face from Saved by the Bell?
Yes. I'm so
No, she's so
scared.
excited. She's so scared.
I'm scared. Jesse, what are those? Jesse, are you still taking those? Oh, yeah.
What were they? Caffeine pills?
Yes. To keep her up so she could study, Brendan.
Don't just do cocaine like a normal person. Come on.
That,
Not like that wasn't readily available in. Wait, this is Saved by the Bell we're talking
Yeah,
about, right?
yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, that's not like Beverly Hills.
this is Bayside, man. Come on.
Yeah. Everyone's on the straight and narrow. And
Saved by the
Bayside
Bell,
High.
Beverly Hills 90210, and Melrose Place, all the same show. And I know that Saved by the Bell, extremely different, but also the exact same.
Big Saved by the Bell fan. Love that show.
My older sister was a big fan.
If you were
Little before my time.
if you are 39 years old right now, you loved Saved by the Bell. Loved it. That was your show. And then people a little bit younger than me,
Can confirm, because I'm a little bit younger than you, and I never really
Yeah.
watched it.
you were a big Boy Meets World fan.
I
bet.
was not.
You weren't,
That was-
man.
I did not watch
That was like the
show.
next eight, like the people above my age, big Wonder Year fans. Like they had the show kind of, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, the stair step.
Now,
my sister is a few years. You're 86, right?
Yes,
Okay.
born in 86.
So she's a couple years younger than both of you, and she loved reruns of Saved by the Bell and Boy Meets World.
Yeah.
Huge fan of both. I've watched a lot of both, and if I had to pick one, Boy Meets World.
What you know about Home Improvement?
Oh,
Oh yeah,
That's my wheelhouse.
yeah.
great show, A+ show.
Yes.
I just told
Jill, low key, nice.
Patricia Heaton? Yeah, sure.
Low key,
no,
nice.
not Patricia Heaton. Patricia Heaton was the Everybody Loves
Everybody
Raymond.
Loves Raymond, yeah.
Also, what you know about Everybody Loves Raymond?
Also a great show. I just told Bradley J the other day, he was walking over by my desk, I think to talk about the Cowboys, and he was just kind of peering over the divider at my desk and said, "You look like Wilson right now."
Yeah,
And he does. He just come over, just the eyeballs above the screen.
fantastic.
Patricia Richardson. Home Improvement.
That's really where Jonathan Taylor Thomas's career took off. For those of you keeping score at home,
That and Heidi.
Zachary Ty Bryan, like me, from Aurora. That is the only similarity we have.
Brad.
Particularly if you look him up and see what he's been up to lately. Nothing good.
Yeah.
Little crypto scamming, little domestic violence. It's not good. It's not good. Yeah. ZTB, bad guy. JTT, I don't know what he's
yeah,
doing.
what is he up to?
He's like a lawyer now or something.
Good for him.
He got out of the biz.
Good for Jonathan Taylor
Yeah.
Thomas.
Oh, Al Borland. What fantastic Al Borland. I liked Al.
Richard Karn.
Al was terrific.
One of the great gags in the history of that TV show Detroiters is that one time one of the characters is reading a book called Karn on the Cob, a biography of Ty Cobb by Richard Karn.
That is really funny.
Yeah, Home Improvement, that was good.
JTT went to Harvard and Columbia.
Yeah, I said he's like a brain. He's really smart. Yeah. Also, shout out to Bob Vila, his arch nemesis. There's always good to have when you have an arch nemesis.
Yeah, it means you
You know?
really succeeded in doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Zach Morris, arch nemesis, Mr. Belding.
Yeah.
There you go.
There's a website out there that I believe is called ZachMorrisIsTheWorst.com.
I believe it.
I believe it too. We will take a break from early 90s TV comedies, family comedies. Chat a little Chiefs here. We'll get to some Royals. I'm excited for my very first edition of One Gotta Go. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm excited. For
Oh,
that.
are you?
I am excited.
Yeah,
for
this
that.
will be your maiden voyage on the
Yes.
One Gotta Go game.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But I want to talk about the Chiefs and what we saw week number 1, and we haven't talked. I have not uttered the offensive line hardly at all. I mean, none. You want to talk about a position group that we have talked ad nauseum about for year after year after year. The O-line. Dating back to who's going to replace Eric Fisher. Is Orlando Brown worth the franchise tag? Can Lucas Niang get it done? Is Andrew Wiley good enough? Is Mitchell Schwartz going to play next year? We talk about that over and over. I mean, we were talking about, is Kyle Long going to be the right guard for this Kansas City Chief team, right?
Mm-hmm. Kyle
Austin
Long.
Blythe.
Wow.
Yes, we got Austin Blythe. And then we drafted Creed Humphrey. Like, we've talked about the O-line so much in every preseason. Last year, what's the offensive line going to do? Is Lucas Niang going to be at right tackle? Who's going to end up playing left tackle? Do you give a contract to Orlando Brown? I mean, that's all we talked about last year in the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Now they go out and get Donovan Smith. You signed Juwan Taylor. And you've got, I think, a top 3 offensive line.
I agree.
And I think this year it can rival the best if it comes down to one guy. And if he's healthy, and that's Donovan Smith. If Donovan Smith can look like he did in the game, preseason game, just individual reps, watch Donovan Smith at left tackle. He looked terrific. I mean, outstanding. He's big, he's physical, he's athletic, and the reason he stunk last year is he was not healthy. Plain and simple. And if he is able to stay healthy, Tooney doesn't miss the game even though he's got a broken hand. I remember that. You know, he had that club with his left hand. Creed is a monster. Trey Smith will hopefully keep getting better. And then Juwan Taylor.
Man, I think you're underselling Trey Smith.
Well, I'm saying he's got the highest ceiling out of Creed and Trey Smith from what everybody says.
Okay.
Like they will.
No,
I hope
just
you
think,
can pay both of them.
I just think he's already like among the very best guards.
And then you add
league.
Juwan Taylor. We haven't said anything about this group. Anything.
Mm-hmm. And I think with that in mind, the fact that we haven't had to say anything, I would argue that with the quality of your interior line, 3 genuinely elite players on your interior line, a right tackle who has been very good throughout the first 4 years of his career, I would argue the Chiefs are a top 10 offensive line if Donovan Smith is bad. Not like worst player in the league, but if he is like a C- D+ player, that's still a top 10 line. If he is mediocre, this is going to sound funny. If Donovan Smith plays the way Andrew Wiley played last year, bare minimum top 5 offensive line. That is how much stock I put into that interior group, because I think the tackles are good enough. Mahomes has the escapability to a high enough level that he's not going to get sacked a ton, and he is smarter with the ball every single year in terms of not taking risks. If Donovan Smith is mediocre, if he is the average of what he was in 8 years with Tampa, this is one of the 3 best lines in the league, I think. That's all they need from him, because I think the rest of those guys are already at an established level. I guess you could say maybe you have questions about Taylor if you want to tell me, hey, look, I know he's older than both Creed and Trey Smith, but different system, maybe things are a little different. Coaching is obviously different. If you wanted to tell me you're a little more hesitant there, fine, I will listen to that argument. I think he's going to be very good. I think those 3 guys in the middle are going to be great. And if you've got 4 great offensive linemen, you don't need anything all that special at the other spot. So I'm with you. I mean, you just need competent play from Smith, and this should be a truly great group this year.
And which makes me so frustrated that they can't figure out how to run a short yardage play. That's what makes me so frustrated with this group. To me, if you've got an excellent, and that goes back to Andy Reid needs to get over I'm not going to quarterback sneak Patrick Mahomes. He's got to get over that. You have got to get over that. But if it's 4th and 1 or 3rd and 1, if you've got a top 5 or a top 3 offensive line, you should be able to get a yard 80% of the time.
90, honestly.
You really should.
Yeah.
That's the only thing right now that I have a concern with the offensive line is, can you get it done short yardage? That's it. That's the Chiefs thing right now on offense. It's not, it used to be, oh, well, we can't throw short. People are going to play deep. Well, yeah, the Chiefs, debunked that last year. No, something that's always been a problem for the Chiefs for the last 3 years is they can't do short yardage. That's my only concern, issue, thing I'm going to follow for the Kansas City Chiefs the first part of the year is short yardage. Why can't you be better at short yardage? Watching Donovan Smith, watching Juwan Taylor in the game against the Cardinals, and against the Saints, they were good. They were really good. It's a great problem to have. And their backups, to me, there's one question with their backups. Do you keep the Prince? Do you keep Prince Tego Winogo, or however you pronounce it?
That is how you pronounce it.
Like that's it. Because I hope that Wanya Morris can be your left tackle next year. And there's your left tackle.
Wanya Morris.
That's what I'm hoping. Because if he can, then everybody's there again next year.
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't have to go out and spend money on a backup. That is the hope, because now it went from can Lucas Niang do it to can Wanya Morris do it. But Allegretti's your backup center. Kennard is going to be another backup guard. And then Niang and Morris are your backup tackles. You have 9 offensive linemen. There's no reason to keep 10.
No, they're not going to keep 10.
So this is the most boring off. And I feel good that Lucas Niang as a backup is fine. He is fine. Allegretti, we have seen it. He is fine. You hope that Morris can be that guy, but this is the first time in I was never an Orlando Brown Jr. fan. Because
I know.
I just was not a
that was made clear.
Yeah, that was not a secret. No.
I thought they improved their offensive line by getting Juwan Taylor over Orlando Brown. I like that move better than Orlando Brown.
I think this overall, this is probably a better unit than last year's. And I thought last year's unit was really good. I was not nearly as down on Brown as you were. I thought Orlando Brown was limited a little bit in terms of his skill set. His athleticism, I thought he was a great athlete for his size, but I did think some of his skill set was a little bit limited. But no, I think Taylor can be a better all-around blocker than Orlando Brown was. And I think Donovan Smith has shown before that he can be better than Andrew Wiley. And Wiley was pretty good last year, all things considered. Again, it was the same kind of principle, though. Brown was fine to good most of the time. Your interior was awesome. You just needed Andrew Wiley to be competent. And he was. He did exactly what you needed out of him. And I think the Chiefs can at least do that this year. And if you think Taylor is even incrementally better than Brown, and if you look at what Donovan Smith has been at his best in this league, then that's definitely better than what Andrew Wiley is. And that's not a slight at Wiley. It just is what it is. Some players are better than others. Then, yeah, this group can be even better than last season's. I think the short yardage stuff is mostly Andy Reid psyching himself out. That, to me, is the, of all of Andy Reid's...
Is that his red flag? Or beige flag?
Yeah, of all of his 25-year career, and why don't you know how to read a clock? And why won't you run the ball a little bit more? All the things people can bring up about Andy Reid over time. I think, more than anything, he just overthinks things as much as many great coaches do, but the short yardage stuff is the most recent manifestation of that.
Like, you've got one of the best interior offensive lines, if not the best in the league. Just move people and get 3 feet.
Mm-hmm. So I looked this up. The Eagles last year, you remember the tush push when they had all 11 dudes within about 5 yards of each other, and it was Jalen Hurts tuck the ball. We're going to push you into the line.
Yes, and it was like 89% successful or something ridiculous.
90.5%.
Oh, wow.
That was very accurate.
Thank you.
29 of 32. They ran that play 32 times, and they succeeded on all but 3 of them. You have a great offensive line. Jalen Hurts is bigger, just size-wise, than Mahomes, but Mahomes also isn't exactly a toothpick.
No, he's bigger than when people realize.
I know why, and part of me, because we were talking about earlier with the third-string quarterback, that Andy Reid is just going to do things the way he wants to do them. Andy Reid wants to play guys in the preseason, and damn it, he's going to play guys in the preseason, even if modern logic says you really don't need to. He's going to do it. Having guys who know the system, whether it's a coach, a player, a quarterback, whatever, that is valuable to him. If he doesn't want to have Patrick Mahomes have unnecessary contact with a defensive line, he is not going to do it. But I think so it's not going to change anything by saying it, but I think it's also very logical to say there's no reason that a dude who is that athletic with a running back in Isaiah Pacheco, who is going to be fine just running full speed with his head down to push someone, and an offensive line that can road grade like this interior can, there's really no reason you can run that play.
That's my only concern about the O-line.
It was a freak play 4 years ago. Like, it's fine. How often does that happen?
We talk about scar tissue.
Yeah.
That's real there for Big Red.
I wish they would run it. The play they ran.
You can do so many different things out of it. You don't know. You could fake the quarterback sneak, and then you could roll out and do the crazy stuff that you like to do.
The play they ran.
It has to be a threat.
Right.
It has to be.
Because I think defenses know, okay, yeah, they're not going to, if they're in a run formation, they're not just going to jam it up the middle. We got to do our run fits here and go get the running back because they're running the ball.
Yeah. I think the thing to me is that the Chiefs, like, first through third down and 20-20, honestly 10-10, they do so many different things, and they confuse you, and they run different plays out of the same sets, and they've got all these complex routes and combinations. That's why they're so successful there. But then they don't have enough, or I won't say the Chiefs don't have enough. They don't call enough tendency breakers when you get to 4th and 1 or 4th and goal from the 1 or right on the goal line. The big softball fast pitch shovel pass now, like, that has been less effective because every team in the league now has 3 years of tape knowing, okay, well, when Travis Kelce lines up wing right and you can tell the defense or the offense is flowing right, it's going to be an inside shovel. The whole world knows that. The play they ran against the Saints on, I guess it was their first offensive drive, when Blake Bell took the direct snap and went forward. Okay, guys, every single team in the NFL knows that if it's 4th and 1 and you see Blake Bell flex into the backfield, he is going to take the snap.
Well, what needs to happen is they need to put Kadarius Toney there, take the snap, then draw back to pass. That would really fool them.
I mean, you could do any, even if you one time, instead of direct snapping to Bell, if you still snapped it to Mahomes
through his legs, I like it.
That's a lot of detail, but whatever it is to get him the ball, you need to show that you thought you do the Cam Newton. You've been watching film. That's nice. Watch this. That is what the Chiefs need to do.
Run the 6-man football play where you got to pitch it before the quarterback can run it.
Yeah.
Pitch it back to Mahomes and then let him do whatever he wants.
They ran Rose Bowl, 1945 Rose Bowl plays. Like, you can get creative. That is my one play calling complaint, I think, is that those short yardage goal to go situations, things I think have gotten a little bit stale.
And honestly, like, I think every fan feels nervous when they line up for 3rd and 1. Like, 3rd and 1 is automatic for 31 teams.
3rd and 8 than 3rd and 1.
I do. You watch games. When I watch games with other Chiefs fans, like my wife or her family, and like they don't like being in 3rd and 1.
3rd and 15. Got this.
Yeah,
3rd and
exactly.
1. Oh my
3rd
God.
and 1. 3rd and 1 for the Chiefs.
So then
felt like 3rd and 8 for another
3rd
team.
and 1. Now I'm going, all right, do we go for it on 4th down when we don't get this?
Well, the fullback trap's out because you don't have a fullback anymore.
Yeah.
That was the one thing. Like 2 years ago, that was cash.
Not
they ran the
anymore.
fullback trap with Michael Burton, and for about 12 weeks, it was the most unstoppable short yardage play in football. The Chiefs just ran it over again, and then teams watch film.
Yeah. Coming up next, I'm excited for this. I've got my very first one gotta go, and I got a great trio.
Okay.
That you guys have to. Is it 3?
Well, generally we do 4, but we'll accept 3.
We can do 3.
We'll accept it.
I'll add another one.
Okay.
I can add another one. I'm excited about this.
All right.
All right.
We're excited too.
One gotta go. Next.
Are you kill you, give me $200.
Well, gotta go.
That's a great bit, isn't it?
Well, one gotta go. And I'm excited about this. This is my first ever one gotta go. All right. Here's my 4. I only had 3, but I had to add one to that. So I'm gonna change it up and I'm gonna make it this. Okay.
All right.
One gotta go, and the overall theme is franchise players.
Okay.
Okay. All right. One gotta go. Bobby Witt Jr., Julio Rodriguez, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., or Adley Rutschman.
That's a good one.
Vlad Jr. is the choice because he plays the least valuable defensive position of the 4. And quiet as kept has not had a great year this year for some reason.
Okay. What if I would have, okay, yours is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. What's yours?
I would probably go Vladdy Jr.
Okay.
too.
What if I replace Vladimir Guerrero Jr. with Michael Harris?
And it's a more interesting question.
Yeah, Michael Harris is a stud. Leadoff man for my Diamond Dynasty team, by the way. Great card in MLB.
You get the monthly awards?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Solid cards.
Michael Harris, Julio Rodriguez, Bobby Witt Jr., Adley Rutschman. One gotta go. Franchise player.
Yeah, this one's tough too.
Ooh, good. I made a good one.
No, this is a good start. I'm very impressed. Man,
I think I'm still going with, I think I still say Harris. Gosh, Julio's had a down year. He's been better in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
But I like his, I think in the long haul, he's a better hitter than Harris. And they're both pretty good defensively, but I think Julio's he could be generational defensively in center field. Bobby Witt Jr.'s on track to win a Gold Glove at shortstop this year. That kind of defense at shortstop with his bat, with his speed is a pretty valuable combo. Rushman being a switch hitting catcher is so valuable.
With pop, yeah.
Yeah, to me, yeah, I guess one got to go would be between the center fielders, and I think Julio's going to be better than Harris in the long run. Though that's a very tough one. Yeah, Jake's good at this.
Yeah, that is
He's
a good
taking
one.
this to this like a duck to water.
I think I'm with you. I think I'm going to go with Michael Harris as the one who's out. I mean, I'm a big Julio fan. I love his power speed combo. The one thing that gives me pause with Witt is just relative to the other guys. He doesn't walk.
Yeah.
He does not get on base that way.
Well, I don't even think he has to hit, he's hit 277 now,
Yeah.
278. He didn't have to hit that to be valuable because of the power and the glove and the speed.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got plenty of tools.
So
Bobby Witt, by the way, is having the best year out of anybody.
My thought is that Michael Harris probably has to hit for a high average to be real valuable, because I don't think he's going to be he's not going to be a 25, 30 home run a year guy.
No.
And yeah, he didn't walk either. In fact, he might walk less than Bobby Witt Jr. Well, no, slightly. A 5.6 career walk percentage. Are you on Witt's Baseball Reference?
I just had it up a moment ago. Bobby Witt, for his career so far, he has, let me do the math for you real quick.
No, you can check it. Go to advanced batting. His career BB percentage is there.
Okay, so the number is career walk percentage. Give me a second. There we go. 5%.
5%. Okay, so Harris is a tick higher at 5.6%, but Witt's got more career home runs.
Julio doesn't walk as much as I thought he would.
No, not a ton. And again, a little bit of a down year relative to his
Adley Rutschman
last season.
definitely does. Okay, there you go. That's mine.
Who's out for you?
Well, I made it. I didn't choose one. Do I have to choose one?
Yeah.
Those are the rules.
I will go with Michael Harris.
Yeah. That was a good one. I'm very impressed. All right, mine. Your top 4 contenders, the by far 4 leading, 4 shortest odds to make the college football playoff this year. It's the top 4 teams in the AP poll. It's Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama. One is not going to make it. Who is it?
Ohio State.
Ohio State. Not even a second thought.
Okay. Is that because you both hate Ohio State, or because you actually think it's Ohio State?
That is because I think they are a little iffier at quarterback.
Yeah.
than they have been. Like, they didn't have a clear, like, they've got 5-star guys coming out the years, of course, at Ohio State, but they didn't have a guy like grab the bull by the horns in spring practice, by all accounts. And it sounds like they might not have a CJ Stroud or a Dwayne Haskins or a Justin Fields at that position.
Yeah, I don't think Kyle McCord is that guy.
And if they don't have that guy, then what does it look like for Ryan Day, who I don't think is a great game coach?
There's some benefit to Ohio State and to Michigan. Is whoever loses Ohio State, Michigan, that game, if that's your only loss, they're going to make it in the playoffs.
Probably. I mean, both of those teams have a chance to be 11-0. One of them's got Penn State at home, and one of them, I think, has to go to Penn State.
If it's Michigan,
and that's the only team with the level of talent in the Big Ten this year to beat either of those teams.
So Georgia's going to be there.
Doesn't Ohio State play Notre Dame too?
I
don't know.
Believe they do again. I believe you are correct. They're going to have the second game this year.
But if you think Ohio State's going to lose another game besides Michigan, they won't make it. But I think Georgia's going to be good. Nick Saban, I think, is playing snake in the grass right now, folks.
Saban seems like he's having a good time.
Saban knows he's got a good team, and no one's talking about Alabama. No one's talking about Alabama. I feel like they're going to end up just destroying people. If they beat Texas, which I think they will because it's at home, I think that they will go undefeated.
Michigan is safe because Michigan is the only team that has Michigan by far, I think, has the best quarterback situation here. Even if you're not a huge McCarthy guy, multiple year starter, great athlete, nailed on starter. I'm going to go on the flip side of you. The worst quarterback situation is the Alabama Crimson Tide. I don't think either of the two guys who are currently lined up to be their top two are good enough to get them to the playoffs.
The Notre Dame kid, isn't it?
Tyler Buckner,
yeah.
was not good. He just followed Tommy Rees. Not good. And Jalen Milroe, I thought was going to be a superstar until I saw him try to pass.
Yeah, he might not be able to do that very well.
So I'm going to give you Alabama.
He may be such a good athlete, it doesn't matter.
That's also true. And this should be a good Alabama team. I mean, their roster is really good.
Mm-hmm.
But I have major worries about their quarterback.
Georgia's got a new quarterback, too, but they also don't play anybody relative to
their
the
schedule
SEC.
is
a joke. It's a joke.
It's so simple.
Yeah.
I mean, not having to play Alabama and LSU in the regular season, that's a huge break.
Yeah. So, I'll go Alabama.
Okay, my one got to go. Has nothing to do with sports. It is about Chinese food side dishes. We have fried rice. We have lo mein. We have crab rangoon. We have egg rolls.
Oh, egg roll. Get that out of here.
Egg roll out of here?
Get egg rolls out of here.
What?
Why?
Goodbye.
Why?
Because I love fried rice. I love me some lo mein. When I go places, I can't choose one. I got to get both of them. And then if I had to choose between crab rangoon or an egg roll, it is crab rangoon every single time and 8 times on Sunday. Adios. Egg roll.
I like egg rolls. I like fried rice. I'm going to jump to crab rangoon, to be honest with you. We had crab rangoon. We went to Fong's Pizza in Des Moines.
With the tournament. Yeah.
Delicious. Absolutely phenomenal.
I told you guys to go there.
Dude, literally everyone did. And that we appreciate the recommendation. But we were there in Des Moines. People said to go there. Swain told us to go there. My wife told us to go. Everyone. And they were right. Everyone was right. Was really
I got big kudos. My wife had a work conference in Des Moines. I told her to go there, and everyone loved it. They were like, "Lindsay, how did you know about this place?" And she said, "Well, my husband told me to go there, and they all think I'm cool now."
Nice. But either crab rangoon or lo mein, I could do without either one. It doesn't really matter. So
not a noodle guy. All right.
Yeah, it's fine. They're totally fine.
I kind of like lo mein benefits from the presence of a meat, a protein, particularly beef. Like chicken lo mein is fine, but beef lo mein, that's kind of my favorite of the lo mein. Rice can be very hit or miss at times.
I love rice.
And crab rangoon and egg roll, big winners. Are you a spring roll guy maybe? Or okay. It's just you're so big on the other three. This is not a anti egg roll stance.
No. This is not it depends on where you get the egg roll too. But if all 4 of those are there and someone says you got to choose 3, it's a no-brainer. No-brainer.
When Abby and I go out for Chinese to a buffet, the thing we start with is like a plate of crab rangoon and egg rolls that looks like a wedding cake. Like it's the height of a wedding cake, and we just throw down on those, and then we get to the protein and the entrees.
My favorite are like the smaller crab rangoons, not like the big giant ones. I like the smaller.
A little easier to eat.
Yeah, I like those.
God, what was the other kind of pizza we had at Fong's? We had crab rangoon, and we had one other one.
Barbecue one. They had a good barbecue one that I had.
Oh gosh, I got to look it up. I think it's in my phone.
Yeah, I have to look it up.
The wing,
dude, it was so good.
Their wing pizza was good too.
Was it the? Do we do the egg roll pizza? Was it egg roll pizza?
Maybe it was. I just remember it was delicious.
Yeah, I think it was the egg roll pizza. Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Big fan. Yeah, that place ruled.
Yeah.
I'd go back in a heartbeat.
No question. Coming up next, Royals baseball. And did JJ Piccolo give us a hint on what's going to happen in the offseason?
I'm Jim Cheska.
This is ska talk here on 580 Sports Talk.
Every damn day is ska talk on this
I don't know
program.
if this is Real Big Fish.
It is.
I don't know if that's Less Than Jake. I don't know if it's...
No, she's famous now by Real Big Fish.
That's Real Big Fish?
Yeah.
I prefer Real Big Fish when I go fishing.
Yeah. I prefer Real Big Fish when I hear a horn section.
Good band.
Yeah.
Good band.
Those checkerboard shoes out. Start dancing. Oh, yeah.
The horn section.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a fan of ska. I like ska.
Little Streetlight Manifesto. Maybe get some 5 Iron Frenzy in here someday.
I am fine with having left that music in the late 90s.
Team ska. I'm all right with that.
Every single Real Big Fish song for the last 20 years has sounded exactly the same. Like, I think they just renamed the same song.
Are the Royals fun? Like, are they fun again? Like, they're legitimately fun right now. And I think the reason why is because we've got nothing, to really play for. Just go out there and play for each other and fight. They were down 7-0, and I'm like, well, this is over. So I turned it off. And then, about an hour later, after Bobby Witt Jr. hit a grand slam, I'm like, hey, I better turn this thing back on. And then they, tie it up in the ninth, and then we go to extras in the 10th, and eventually you run out of good bullpen arms if you are the Royals.
That's pretty much what happened.
And that's what happened. But this the loss doesn't mean anything last night. And honestly, I feel better about the team because they've got a little bit more fight, a little bit more claw. The lineup is hitting right now. That's the fun thing about this team.
That's exactly right. When you talk about a team being fun, what you really mean is, are they hitting the ball over the fence, or are they putting runs on the board? And for a good chunk of this season, that has not been the case. We know no team in baseball has been shut out more often than the Kansas City Royals. Mm-hmm. They were miserable at the plate in April and most of May. Now Bobby Witt Jr.'s gotten going, and since the All-Star break, MJ Melendez has gotten going.
Garcia's unstoppable.
Michael Garcia's hitting streak is up to 17 games. Michael Massey has been on fire since the start of August. And what you've got now with Salvador Perez starting to produce again as well is you've got a competitive lineup. Mm-hmm. And that when you can score, when you feel like you turn on the game and you feel like, hey, we can put some runs up this inning. This guy's coming to bat, or this part of the order is up, and not, oh my God, it's 3 automatic outs or 5 automatic outs at the bottom of the order. That makes a team fun to watch. Even if they don't end up winning games, they're at least going to be entertaining.
The only thing that just bugs me is I've almost come to the point now where they're fun to watch right now, but until they do it when games truly matter, that's what really counts. Like, it's easy to the only thing that they're doing right now is most of the guys who are playing right now are going to be on the team, at least lineup wise. We know Garcia's now going to be the third baseman. We know Bobby Witt's going to be the shortstop. That Massey's going to be your second baseman next year. That Vinny P is going to be your first baseman. That it is going to be some sort of trio of Fermin, maybe Salvador Perez, Nick Prado, MJ Melendez. If they trade Sal, whatever. But it's easy to hit it. It's easy to make plays when there's no pressure on you. Like, that's why the Royals seem to do well always in September, right? It's easy to hit it well when you're 23 games out of first place. Can you do it in April? Can you do it in May? Okay, now you've done it in April and May. Can you continue to do it in June? What was it? Hey, yeah, great. So-and-so's throwing for a whole bunch of yards. Yeah, you're doing it in the fourth quarter when you're down by 21. Can you do it in the first quarter? Can you actually hold the lead? Can you play with the lead? Okay, great. You're down 10 in the first quarter. Can you fight back then? But you're down 20 in the fourth quarter. There's no pressure there. The old empty stats and all of that. And a part of me, and I'm not trying, it's enjoyable to watch, but this is I need to train my brain to be, this is for March, Jake. Don't get too excited. Wait until April. Wait until May.
Well, the thing that is exciting is that these are all still young players. Like the people that are driving this stretch of good offensive play are 23, 24, 25-year-old players, and Michael Massey and Bobby Witt Jr. and Michael Garcia and MJ Melendez. And these are all really young guys. Even Freddie Fermin is a rookie and has swung the bat well, even though he's a little bit older. So I think that's where your reason for optimism comes, is this appears to be anyway, visible improvement for some young players who are hoping can be core pieces. And they're doing it without really a first baseman right now, because, Vinny Pasquantino would be in the middle of this if not for his injury.
JJ Piccolo spoke yesterday. Here is what he had to say about Bobby Witt Jr. and the contract. There's a couple questions involving when you want to start the topic of it. And here is what the GM had to say.
We always felt comfortable with Bobby as a player, but now that he's the level at which he's playing, obviously we want him to maintain that and even continue to get better, because there is still some ceiling with him. I think our feeling a couple months ago, he's just scratching the surface of what he can do. So from an off-season perspective, we feel like our left side of the infield is secure, so we don't need to worry that much about the left side of the infield. We may need to add some depth and get a right-handed bat that complements other left-handed hitters, but the shortstop and third base position we're not overly concerned with right now.
Would you say you're more inclined to have long-term contract discussions with him since he's put up these numbers, or it doesn't?
No, it doesn't change. I mean, it's something we've always been interested in, and as we've talked about before, the timing of those things is always the key. So when a player's performing exceptionally well, that's a time that they're going to want to talk more. When a player's not necessarily performing at the expected level, they're going to be more reluctant. I think what it does, Bobby continues on this path. It gives us a runway to start thinking about how are we going to attack the offseason and how those discussions might go.
I'm sorry to have those discussions.
Yeah, we tabled them back in spring training. We spoke to his representation and said, the time's not right. Let's just visit it after the offseason.
That is what JJ Piccolo had to say yesterday. Does that give you any thought on, do you think they will discuss contract extensions, new contracts with Bobby Witt Jr. this offseason?
They would be negligent not to. I think that much is pretty obvious. That's the kind of business you do when you have a young star player. You come to them and try and see if there's a way we can keep you here for the long haul. And I wouldn't blame Bobby Witt Jr. one bit if his priorities right now are, hey, let's not do that. I would rather, maybe play out the string here and let's see how things progress, because I don't want to hitch my wagon to a team that just lost 105 games, or however many it is that the Royals end up losing. It's going to be more than 105 games. But I would understand that. I think you have to start those conversations and you have to get a feel for, okay, what's the number? What's the length? What's the number? Because I don't know if you're going to be able to do 10, 11 years like the Braves have done with all their guys, or like the Rays did with Wander Franco, like we talked about yesterday. But could you buy out the first 2 years of free agency? Would you feel good about that if you could buy out 2-3 years of free agency? I think that could be something that's amenable to both parties, because it gives you a chance to build around for the long term, and also gives Bobby Witt Jr. a chance to maybe cash in free agency in it while he's still in his prime.
Someone I saw, and I can't remember who brought it up, but they made a good point for people saying, oh, well, the Royals can't afford someone like Bobby Witt Jr. And I'm not talking, I'm talking about realistically, like how they normally operate, not okay, all these guys can afford these players, right? Because they can. They just choose not to. Is it easier in some instances? Yes. How much different is $3 million for a franchise player?
What do you mean?
Like salary wise,
it's $3 million.
That's my point. Like how big of a deal is $3 million in baseball? Football, big deal. That's like a whole nother player because they got a cap. The reason I say this is Salvador Perez is going to make $23 million the coming years. To say that you couldn't offer Bobby Witt Jr. 26, 27 million a year is not out of the realm. Like if you can afford Salvador Perez and his aging, if you're going to give Salvador Perez 4 for 82 when he's aging, then you clearly can offer Bobby Witt Jr. a big contract. That's kind of my point, is that if Salvador Perez is going to make $22 million, and we know he hasn't been, he hasn't been a dominant player. Like Bobby Witt Jr. right now is playing as a legitimately the potential Gold Glove winner. And he's now back on pace with another home run yesterday to hit 30 home runs this year. He's on pace to hit 30. He's going to go 30-30. That's stupid. You're telling me that you offered Salvador Perez and he's, he had, the 48, but he normally hits 27 home runs a season and he's aging. You got the money. If to me, the difference like that's why they can offer him 25 plus. Now, is it 30 plus a year? I don't know, but you can offer him 25 plus, 26 million. If we're talking what he is able to do and what Salvador Perez is able to do, and you offered him that contract and he was 31 years old. Does that make, do you see where I'm saying? Like, you're offering 23 million for a 31-year-old. You sure better be able to offer 27 to a 23-year-old.
Well, that was the past regime, and unfortunately, we've been saddled with some contracts that have really inhibited our spending flexibility. So we've got to be smart about how we allocate our funds, especially when we're pouring so much R&D into possible stadium locations.
Well, then you lost me, John Sherman. Congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. That's
my thing. Like,
what other contracts though? Like other than Perez and Jordan Lyles, nobody's on a multi-year contract.
And there's a decent chance that Salvador Perez is not going to be under contract next year for the Royals. That's my point. Like, even if the cheap David Glass era, or was this when did they offer this when
I think Sherman owned the team already.
Yeah, so if Sherman already owned, I don't remember who. Yeah, he's been owner since 2020. Sherman, you okayed 4 for 82 for a 31-year-old. You should be able to offer what a good going rate for a absolute stud shortstop at 23.
I mean, yeah, I don't disagree with any of that logic. You
have to wait and see.
I need to see the tweet from Jeff Passan that says Bobby Witt has agreed to this contract, and then I need to see the Royals confirm it before I believe it is going to happen.
Well, if Jeff Passan tweets it out, I'll believe
it. Yeah, I need the confirmation. Then I will believe it. I do not think in terms of spending, the Royals have earned that benefit of the doubt.
No, I'm not saying I think they're going to. I'm saying they should.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Yeah.
And if they don't offer something what I've said, then you've lost me, John Sherman. Congratulations.
Hopefully they lose everyone, because you should be furious if your team doesn't try to keep a guy like that.
Coming up, we will get into some college football news here on 580 Sports Talk. Sports Talk Hour number 3 on this Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. Jake LeBon, Brennan Dworzinski, and Dan Lucero with you. We've learned a lot today. We've learned a lot. One, Brendan hates the Red Hot Chili Pepper song "Give It Away." Dan loves it, and I still don't think Luther Vandross is very good. So we've learned a lot on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. We've got plenty more to get to. Tim Fitzgerald coming up at the bottom of the hour. Mitch Holthus in the 5 o'clock hour. We got Royals baseball again tonight. Royals trying to get back on track after falling in extras yesterday. We've got Royals baseball tomorrow. They got a day game. So Royals game tonight, and then a Royals day game, and then another Royals day game because Chicago does it correct.
More day baseball.
At least on Friday they do.
Day baseball on Fridays. I am fully on board with that.
It's awesome.
I think the Cubs are the only ones that can do that, though.
Anyone can do it if they want.
Yeah.
No, but like it actually works. Plus, you got to have a large fan base. Like that's not going to work for the Royals. It does for the Cubs.
Yeah.
You know,
it's also it's a weird situation. It's actually mandated in Chicago that the Cubs have to play day games a certain number of times per year.
Whose mandate?
The city.
They can
That was a stipulation for allowing them to put lights into Wrigley Field in 1988. Because they still had to play a certain number of day games every year. That's why they still play Friday day games at home.
The city has that power. I feel like
they can do whatever they want.
What, the city?
Sure.
Why?
Because it's the whole city. It's the government. Also because Wrigley Field, well, not anymore because they've totally turned it just into Cubville. But at the time, Wrigleyville was just a neighborhood. Wrigleyville itself is just a part of the neighborhood of Lakeview. Like, there were just houses and apartments.
Yes,
like,
it wasn't like
over.
a tourist attraction. It was just like, that's where they put the ballpark. Because when they built baseball stadiums in the 1910s, that was how they built them.
So the agreement was, if you are allowed to put lights in where you're going to be shining lights into all these apartments during the night, when normally we would prefer you not to do that to your neighbors in town, you have to commit to playing day games when possible. So they play Friday day games.
I'm all right with that. Don't get me wrong. I just think it's kind of weird that the city's like, hey, the Cubs, you got to do this. I'm surprised the Cubs don't say, hey, Chicago, go fly a kite. It's windy here.
Well, for a lot of Cubs history, they didn't really have a leg to stand on with those kind of power plays. Mostly because they were trash and they had owners who didn't really care.
Has the ownership changed?
Yes.
Did they care now? I thought you hated the Cubs because they didn't care.
Well, I still have beef with the Ricketts family,
Yeah.
but they were more willing to spend in the last, well, certainly this offseason, to which they deserve credit for that. Well, every team should spend, but I'm glad they changed course at the very least.
Okay.
But the Ricketts, I think, are like typical of greedy current era Major League Baseball owners, where the business is making money. Baseball is just a vehicle for that, as opposed to the business itself being baseball.
Gotcha. Okay.
The owners before the Ricketts, genuinely bad baseball owners. Sam Zell, if you were alive, I'd have some words for you.
Not good ones.
Not good ones. Not very nice.
No. So lots to get to. Let us know your thoughts. Hit us up on our text line. Also, check us out on YouTube. Very simple. Go to youtube.com. Type in 580 Sports Talk. Hit the subscribe button. And you can leave us a comment as well in our YouTube comments. Some college news. Today, there was some interesting little notes. One, the Pac-12, if anybody was super upset, at the Pac-12 disbanding, look, it was eventually going to just fall apart, and it was not going to happen. Turns out that Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff, back when ESPN said, yeah, we'll give you $30 million a year per school back in 2022, a report from Brett McMurphy says that a president and a professor at a university said, no, we're valued at $50 million. So then Kliavkoff said, okay, we want 50 million. And ESPN said, you're ridiculous. And then stopped negotiating with them. If your commissioner decides to make a future altering decision off of one economics professor at a university, I got bad news for your conference.
Mm-hmm. Athletic conferences.
Come on. Hey, that's okay. That professor over there, at Washington thinks that we're terrific. Better offer 50.
Athletics conferences
Laughable.
should not really have important ties to academics. Like, it's different for the Big Ten because that was the first conference. Those are all great, largely engineering schools, and they've got their consortium. And
they were all
research.
AAU schools for a long time,
right? They're different. They kind of get grandfathered into modern sports in that way. But like, you are worried about making money and being on TV and putting your student athletes in the most successful spot through athletics. The academics at your school should not play a role in that, in my opinion. And part of the reason the Pac-12, I think, has been so poorly managed is that Cal and Stanford, among others, it wasn't just them, but among others, like, no, we're not going to be in a league with Catholic schools. No, we couldn't do that. Or the Cal State schools are beneath us. Leaving alone the fact that the Cal State schools, despite being like the lesser system in California, probably better than most state schools in the country. Like, it's a great system. But no, Cal State schools, no, we can never associate with them. TCU wants it. Texas Tech, an agricultural school? No, absolutely not. We could never.
Can't do that.
And don't get them started on BYU.
Yeah. Mormons? Like, no, they would never do that. But here's the thing. You know who brings in a ton of money because they have a large, rabid, built-in permanent fan base? BYU,
yes.
Among other schools. Texas Tech. They'll bring in fans who care, who give a damn, who go nuts when their team is good. Texas Tech.
You want to know whose fans don't? Cal.
And to the same point, there are a lot of people who work in higher education, I believe, who do get sports, and they get why they are important to a school, and they are fans of them, and they see the value in that. They see the symbiotic relationship between the two. You also get guys, there's one, and I don't know his name. He's an economics professor, I believe, at Rutgers. Every summer, there is a piece that comes out from NJ.com or from the New York Times or something, talks about how Rutgers has failed as a Big Ten school. And Rutgers put too much emphasis on sports and how this was a bad idea for them. The number one source in every single one of those is the same professor. Every single summer, the same economics professor who does not see that relationship.
Hey, Rutgers should be shouting thank you, like 6 years ago when the Big Ten brought them in.
Does their athletic department exist if they don't get that lifeline from the Big Ten?
Oh, my God.
I don't know, dude. Like, the American needs bottom feeders too.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
But no, for real, I mean, your point is totally well met. So my overall point here is that you should not involve people who don't know what they're talking about in matters that pertain to, billion-dollar TV contracts. Because guess what? It's not, I could tell you that was not going to work out.
It was a lot of hubris and it was a lot of bad ideas. And it was USC's university president saying, yeah, I don't think we want to add any of these schools. And George Kliavkoff saying, well, we have to listen to them. They're USC. We have to make them happy.
How'd that work out, Big 12? Exactly. Some other news regarding the college expansion, if you will. Brett Yormark told Andrew Marchand that the conversations are no longer happening with Gonzaga and UConn. Unfortunately, things did not work out only because the dream scenario of adding Colorado, Arizona State, and Utah unfolded for us. Thank goodness. I was not pro UConn coming to the Big 12, nor was I pro Gonzaga joining the Big 12. I think this worked out terrific. I think UConn is better suited in the Big East.
Yeah.
That's worked out really well for them.
That's where they belong. That's just what it is. Gonzaga, sorry. I'm Spokane is its own area. So don't need Gonzaga in the Big 12. Didn't need them.
There will probably come a time when football is its own thing in the college sports landscape, and maybe basketball too is its own thing because it's got a very popular postseason system that makes schools money, and schools make money off the sport. And in that atmosphere or in that landscape, there is probably room for Gonzaga to mix it up with the big boys, so to speak, because they've been doing it as a member of the West Coast Conference now for years. But that day, I think, is still a ways off. And for the Big 12 and its member schools, that's less of a concern for them now than I think it would have been had they not gotten the TV deal done.
If the Big 12 is going to add anybody, and I know they wouldn't because the money wouldn't work out, and I know the two schools I'm about to mention would not bring in more money, so they wouldn't do it anyway. If the Big 12 is going to add anyone, I would want the land-grant schools from Oregon and Washington. I'd want Washington State and Oregon State because, as Dan and I have talked about before, in terms of the culture of caring about your athletic department and fans who are going to watch them on TV and are going to come out and support them and travel and all of that, those are the two best schools that are being talked about right now.
Definitely.
But again, I get the finances don't work, but if it's not going to be them, fine. These are the only 16 you need.
The bummer news today, and I don't know why they're doing this. Maybe you guys can help me out if you've seen something. But TCU is not going to play SMU after the meeting in 2025. It says here they are pausing the series for the Iron Skillet. They're located 35 miles apart. They played basically every year since 1915. Here are the schedules for 26, okay? They have North Carolina on the schedule. 27, they have Stanford. 28,
this is TCU?
Yes, this is TCU. 27, they got Stanford. 28, they've got Duke. 29, they've got Duke. 30, they got Purdue. What the hell are you doing? Like, you're choosing to do this. Why? This is not like, oh, Missouri and KU got split up because of conferences, right? You know, you chose to go to the SEC type of deal. A&M and Texas, you know, screw you. You left. We ain't playing you. No, SMU hasn't been in the same conference as TCU
since 95.
In how many years? Yeah, 95 when the Big 12 happened. Why are you doing this, TCU? What's the reason?
So
there's none.
I have read a little bit about this today, and there's a couple different theories that I can glean. 3, really. One is just from a general sense for TCU. If you want to continue to play with the big boys, you want to say we're going to be a national championship contending program year after year, and we are going to play North Carolina or, other Power 5 teams in the non-conference. We don't want to risk an embarrassing loss to SMU. Like, one way or the other, we're a bigger deal program than they are. We don't want to risk that loss. I don't like that idea.
You're soft.
I don't disagree.
It's a little bit of the thought process behind the in-state basketball schools not playing Wichita State. Like, you lose a lot more than you win.
So beat them.
Playing that game.
So beat them.
But you don't gain anything if you win. You win, you're supposed to.
Yeah.
Doesn't do anything for you.
I think it's
I don't agree with that. I'm just saying that's the argument, right?
Exactly.
It's the same argument that TCU would make.
Well, also, I think KU and K-State for not playing Wichita State, they're cowards.
Well, again, yes, but Dan's right. Like, the logic is that's why teams don't want to do it. Like, you don't have something to gain there.
Also,
get the government involved, like the city of Chicago. Make them play each other. Damn it.
Also, my understanding is that the alumni bases don't get that fired up for this game anymore because it hasn't meant anything. It hasn't been a conference matchup. It's like the third biggest game on TCU's schedule at best. Like, I think if it were something that made a lot of sense for both parties to continue, they would do it. Like, there's a reason Iowa State keep playing is not conference mates. There's a reason Georgia and Georgia Tech keep it going. Clemson and South Carolina have kept it going for a long time.
Well, Iowa and Iowa State play because they're required to. They have to play. The government actually did step in and say they have to.
That's why it makes sense.
But yeah, I mean, if the second of the 3 that I have heard is that Jeremiah Donati, the AD at TCU, essentially thinks we don't need to play SMU anymore. Like, we as a program, we as an athletic department, we are above needing to play SMU.
We have, to steal a phrase you used earlier in this program, we've evolved beyond the need to play first.
Yes, exactly. And like, in the battle of, do you know who my dad is? No, do you know who my dad is at TCU and SMU?
Right.
Their dad won. Their dad is the better lawyer here. The other third, and this is the one I personally believe, Sonny Dykes left SMU on the worst terms for any coach leaving a program since Rich Rod left West Virginia, I think. Like, do you know how off with the transfer portal now, how easy it is to reduce the transfer and follow a coach?
Easy.
There was one player who left with Sonny Dykes from SMU for TCU. One.
Max Duggan.
No. Explicitly not that guy. But yeah, one guy left. Apparently, again, from just
everybody was upset that he left.
Players, pissed, administration, furious, fans, never going to forgive him. And I guess he doesn't have a lot of good things to say about SMU either, because TCU's paying him a lot more money, to be frank. And apparently, again, the third theory is that Sonny Dykes said, I'm not playing them anymore. And I know you care about my opinion because you hired me and paid me all this money, and I don't want to play them anymore. That's the one I believe, personally, is that Sonny Dykes said, I got you there. I got you to the college football national championship game in 1 year, and you're paying me all this money. You clearly care what I think, and I think they suck, and I don't want to play them anymore.
You do what your coach wants. I mean, Bill Self didn't want to play Missouri for a while until he decided. It wasn't going to happen unless Bill said, all right, we can do this.
Yep.
There you go. I thought that was kind of interesting. We got lots more to get to. We will get to the S&P rankings that Bill Connolly put together. We'll get to those a little bit later because that's some good stuff when it comes to KU and K-State. We will get to that, plus what is wrong with you. Tim Fitzgerald joins 580 Sports Talk, Mitch Holthus, all that coming up here on 580 Sports Talk.
You'd rather be...
the hell? What the hell?
Time for What Is Wrong With You here on this Wednesday afternoon. Tim Fitzgerald will join us in just about 10 minutes for the Wildcat wrap-up. But first, we've got today's two news stories on What Is Wrong With You, which, as you know, is brought to you by our good friends at Top City Metal Supply, who cuts the metal you need to your specifications, saving time, money, and material. So never settle when it comes to metal at Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. Our winner for the week so far picked up the win yesterday. We've had a bunch of wire-to-wire winners, but not this week. We have a new Tuesday winner. The folks who broke into a house while the owner was out or the tenant was out, then to cover their tracks, broke back into the house the next day and lit it on fire. And the official story that the police ran with was, well, it was hit by lightning. These people claimed it was hit by lightning. Only for tape to prove, no, these people doused it in gasoline and lit it on fire.
There was surveillance footage. There was also a visible gas can.
Literally in view of the cameras, the gas can in the bedroom.
More damning, though, was certainly the surveillance video where they are walking around emptying the contents of the gas can and then lighting the place on fire.
So funny. So funny. My story for today is going to take us down to Shawnee, Oklahoma. Dan, what are your thoughts on pickleball?
It's a joke. It's not a sport. Get it off television forever. Do not put that nonsense on any sports TV. Cornhole is more of a sport than this.
I love cornhole is kind of satisfying. Like if you just are kind of mindlessly watching it and you just see the bags flying constantly in. There's kind of something satisfying about that. Also, the dudes who play it like truly just look like you and me. Like they're just the most regular looking dudes.
I really feel like if I took 3 months and really focused on training for cornhole, I could be in the ACL championships. 100%. I could dominate. Pickleball is like giant ping pong.
We were in where were we? Tybee Island, Georgia, when Abby and I were on vacation a couple weeks ago. We were out at lunch, and it was a Sunday afternoon. There's not a whole lot of big sporting events on. There was some international club-friendly soccer game, bull riding, and outdoor volleyball. And the bull riding event ended, and it flipped to pickleball. I was like, this is on CBS Sports Network. This is on a legitimate cable channel that is in like 60% of American households. People are watching pickleball on TV right now. I played it in high school gym class. Our pal, Larry Latimer, kills it on the pickleball court at the Y. Like, this is not something I ever thought would be on television.
Like, leisure activity, sure. Do not tell me that pro pickleball is the next big thing.
And like Tom Brady's investing, so you know there's something fishy about
yes.
this. Well, it's not only on TV more and more these days, but the courts are everywhere. Abby's grandma, where she lives, they've actually converted the tennis courts to pickleball courts in this little elderly community. Like it's crazy how much this has blown up. Well, part of a $3 million park in Shawnee, Oklahoma, is now back under construction after just being finished. Why is that? They built the pickleball courts too small.
How would you tell?
There is now caution tape surrounding these brand new courts, which opened in June. However, the city now says they need to redo them. And as Fox 25 Oklahoma City says, that's a serve and a miss for the city of Shawnee. Resident Susan Green said, quote, "It's the biggest mess you've ever seen in your life," with caution tape all over the new courts. They're part of Kid Space Park, which was a $3 million project. And again, the problem is they just made these courts actually too small to play on. So Fox 25 went to see if they could find out how this happened. And, well, no one wanted to return their calls or visit them in the offices. It is unknown how long this is going to take, and it is unknown how much more money this is going to cost taxpayers. $3 million to put in pickleball courts. They didn't even do it properly.
Just paint over them and put hoops on either end so they can be two small basketball courts that nobody will complain about back when we had a proper country.
It's amazing that it is. I liked playing it when I was in high school. We had a whole unit that was games with nets. You played volleyball, then badminton, then pickleball. And now it's the fastest growing sport in America.
I'm very much like whatever floats your boat. Like, seriously, I'm like feigning a lot of this outrage, but please do not tell me this is something I need to watch on ESPN. Like, do not sell this to me as the next big thing that is going to be the sport that we all watch. Absolutely, it will not be.
I will say, too, we also, when we were down in Hilton Head, we saw they had a bunch of new pickleball courts where we were staying. It's loud.
Yes.
Like tennis, you can hear the occasional, and, you know, the sound of the ball hitting the racket, but it's not an intrusive sound. Pickleball is a very intrusive sound.
Yes.
Slap, 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 over and over again. No, that's my what is wrong with you. The city of Shawnee, Oklahoma. $3 million wasted. More of your money now, Shawnee, going to these pickleball courts.
We have had a lot of double Florida days on this program. We haven't had any double Oklahoma days.
Oh!
But that's what we have today. We are meeting, they start them so young these days, a 19-year-old con man who has been arrested again.
All right.
Not really a con boy at that age.
Wow. That's awesome.
Shout out to C.W. McCall. He's a con boy.
Come on, man.
Apache, Oklahoma.
Man, I haven't thought of C.W. McCall in a minute.
Zachary Brent Bailey, arrested early Sunday morning in Apache on an outstanding felony warrant, was booked into the Caddo County Jail where he faces 2 counts of obtaining property by trick/deception. A report by KFOR in Oklahoma shows Bailey allegedly sold 2 vehicles that were not his to Cooper Auto Group in Oklahoma City for tens of thousands of dollars. Records show Bailey stole a 2023 Acura MDX for $48,000 to the dealership in April. Then in May, he came back and sold a 2023 Toyota Tundra for $66,500. Apparently, nobody at the Cooper Auto Group bothered to ask questions like, hey, 19-year-old who looks like you're 15, how did you get these nice new cars?
How did you get a brand new Tundra and a brand new Acura?
We still don't know the answer to that question. We don't know where he got the cars, but we know he got over $100K selling them back to the Cooper Auto Group. The Apache Police Department said Bailey's criminal activities have been compared to those in the movie Catch Me If You Can, starring Leonardo DiCaprio. Great cable flick. That's one of those you can jump in anywhere and it's good.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks, it's really good. In 2022, Bailey posed as a physician's assistant to gain access to 2 hospitals in Corpus Christi, Texas for nearly 2 months. He was 17 at the time. Court records show Bailey was able to dress in scrubs and obtain a badge from the hospitals, claiming to be a traveling physician's assistant. His story ultimately unraveled when he made a slip-up and claimed he went to Stevens College, a private university in Missouri. One ICU nurse realized that's an all-girls school, so it would have been impossible for Bailey to have attended. After his fellow hospital employees began looking into his social media accounts, they realized Bailey was not who he said he was. Bailey later pled guilty to 2 felonies, including acting as a physician's assistant without a license and forgery of documents. He was sentenced to 6 years of probation. But that's not all. According to police, Bailey also gave false information to obtain residency at an apartment complex, used bank fraud to purchase a $52,000 BMW, and stole $4,300 worth of jewelry from a Walmart.
We should be using this kid to work on the American espionage program.
The Apache Police Department said police in Texas also believe Bailey was preparing to impersonate a police officer after his physician's assistant scheme ended. Officer said he was found driving an old police cruiser and was in possession of a bulletproof vest, gun belt, ammunition, a T-shirt with the word sheriff on it, and a ghost gun, a gun without a serial number.
Oh, good.
Bailey's crimes span across Texas, Oklahoma, and Missouri. He is in jail on $200,000 bond.
Texas, Oklahoma, and Missouri. This man is on the Chiefsaholic plan right now with those locations. I'm kind of impressed, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
this wins today, by the way.
This is a crime prodigy.
Yeah, it really is.
He really is like Frank Abagnale. Like he is a real prodigy. He's true to this.
I am now impressed, but he's also kind of a bad guy. You shouldn't commit this many crimes. He also has the longest neck I have seen in a minute. This is a very long neck.
Looking like a young Mike Glennon.
That's really funny. You'd think the getting caught in that lie about the school, though, that's bad.
Yeah, man. How are you going to say that and not know it's an all-girls school?
I just say you went to Mizzou.
Say you went to any other school with a med school.
Yeah. Yeah, that's bad. That's sloppy. That's an immature criminal right there. Not enough wisdom for our criminal.
It's wild that's what's maybe let's check on this mop-headed child and see if he's really what he says he is.
All right, that wins today without a doubt. Does that beat yesterday's story, the faked fire?
I don't know, man. He's done a lot of crimes. But the crime itself that he's been actually caught doing is not that good. It's just like he sold some cars that didn't belong to him. If we had more details on that, I might be more willing to give this guy the nod. But I got to stick with the guys who are like, yeah, lightning hit our house. What a terrible stroke of luck. Nah, man, you're on video doing your crime.
Do we know that it was storming? That's the other detail I would love to know. Like, how plausible is it that it was lightning? That's what I would like to know about that case. I'm with you. I'm going to give that one the nod again today, too. It's our winner for a second day in a row in What Is Wrong With You. Brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. Metal cut to order when you need it at Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard. Tim Fitzgerald joins us next for the Wildcat Wrap-Up on 580 Sports Talk.
A bad idea that we all stick with. I'm not a big fan of sticking. What a great day to be a Wildcat.
It's a big Kansas State victory.
And what a big Kansas State victory for us here on 580 Sports Talk as we welcome Tim Fitzgerald to the program, back and better than ever. You can find him on Twitter at Life of Fitz. You can also find all of his great work as the publisher of GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Fitz, how was your last week being a mountain man out in Colorado?
I'm not saying I don't love Kansas, because I do, but there's something about Colorado and all you can do there that owns a piece of my heart. Let's just leave it at that.
I feel that too, Fitz.
Yeah.
Maybe not in the exact same way you do, but I feel that too.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just, I'm glad it was a good vacation. Let's just leave it at that. It was a wonderful vacation. I got a lot of R&R in, a lot of relaxation. It was just good friends, good food, great concert at Red Rocks, my first Red Rocks experience. It was all good. It's everything a vacation should be.
See, now I feel left out because I know Dan has been to Red Rocks. I know you now, Fitz, have been to Red Rocks. I have never been. I have never made it out for a show, and I feel like I'm really missing out.
Well, let's just put it this way. Before going to Red Rocks, the fitness regime might be in order, or carefully plotting where you park. And we achieved parking excellence at Red Rocks. But when they say the stealth ramp into Red Rocks, and it looks like like stairs into a stadium on the little map, but it's actually a ramp that goes up into the galactic atmosphere, and you walk straight into the stars, and it winds down and delivers you inside Red Rock. It was something else. It really was.
I'll have to get out there at some point. I'll make that trip. Speaking of trips, wow, Brendan, what a perfect segue. The Kansas State basketball team, they are in the midst of what they are billing as a historic trip to the Middle East. They've been in Israel. They arrived in Abu Dhabi today. They will take on Team Mexico coming up tomorrow in a game that was scheduled on the fly. But Fitz, did you get to see anything from K-State's game yesterday against the Israeli select squad in Tel Aviv?
I did. I selected one of the Israeli players, but then found out he was G League already, so he can't be selected. Yeah, it was entertaining. It looked like a team that hadn't played a whole lot of basketball together, and talking about K-State, which they haven't. It, 5 newcomers out there. They didn't have David Gasson. They still had 2 openings on their roster. They filled one yesterday. So I saw some real hopeful things from this team, but they did look like a group that was far from a complete product, which you would expect.
Yeah, and I think that's what really jumped out to me. And Dan and I were watching the game together yesterday, Fitz, and I said it at one point. It was right after Tyler Perry ran down the court and made a bucket. And I said, there are going to be times this year, I think, where K-State's offense is being slowed down for whatever reason, and the game plan is get the ball to Tyler Perry and let something happen. And I think he's going to do it more often than not. And being able to see Arthur Kaluma go and get 23 to lead the way. Cam Carter, I thought, was great with 17 and 10. I feel like in a game where there's not a lot of chemistry on display for obvious and understandable reasons, it's still encouraging to see we've got bucket getters on this team. And if we run into a situation where things are going haywire, we've got guys who can go get theirs. I think that is an important thing for this team that maybe there was a little bit of worry about being able to repeat when this offseason started.
I completely agree. And they do look like they got some guys that can just go get you that bucket when you need it. They're going to have that moment. I'm positive of that at some point. But I was encouraged. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around going to Abu Dhabi to play Mexico. It just seems inefficient. It seems like you could have maybe met in El Paso and called it good, but not go to Abu Dhabi. But I'm just intrigued by it. Let's put it that way.
Tim Fitzgerald, GoPowerCat.com, is our guest on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Joining us for the Wildcat Wrap-Up here on 580 Sports Talk. We do it every Wednesday at this time on the program. Fitz and the crew publish at GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. You can also catch Fitz on Twitter at Life of Fitz. Fitz, what do you think of the freshmen for K-State? They all got a pretty extended look. RJ Jones and McCaleb Rich more so than Day-Day Ames, but all 3 had a chance to play. I thought all 3 had some moments. What did you take away from the 3 newest Wildcats?
I think you see exactly that they're all talented. They all have some game to them, but you also understand exactly why Jerome Tang keeps saying, I want to get more experience in the backcourt, which, adding Keith Glover to the roster, the Stanford transfer, does help that, because you don't want to go into a Big 12 schedule with 2 freshmen in your regular rotation at guard. That's just a lot to ask for those guys, but they all are going to be very good. Always keep in mind that some of us doubted, it wasn't me particularly, that, Jacob Pullen was going to pan out while having a freshman year in which he had a lot of workload on his shoulders. He turned the ball over a lot. And he turned out okay. So I think those guys are all going to be very good. They just might not be expecting too much from them this year. Jerome Tang feels like he can get to a Final Four, and he needs some veteran guards to do that.
Well, they did add a veteran guard, as you mentioned. Is it Keith Glover as in Marquise, or is it Quest Glover as in Questlove from the Roots? Like, what's the pronunciation?
I don't know. I just assumed it was Keith, but they've got this thing going on with these names. You know, you got Marquise and Naquan and Keontae. It just gets very confusing. I'm just going with Keith because a year ago we were calling him David Ingesson, and we were wrong on that, and I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong.
Well, by any name, Glover is the newest member of the K-State roster coming from the portal. Was briefly at BYU, but never saw the floor for them. Previously at Florida and Samford, where he was a standout player in the SoCon the last couple of years. Maybe it's too simplistic to say this is the Desi Sills replacement in the sense that it's a veteran guard who can handle the ball, make plays, do some different things, and do whatever is needed at the guard spot as a veteran. But is that a fair comparison to make, that that's what they're hoping Glover's impact is? Or maybe they're looking for a little bit more or a little bit different?
I think it's a great comparison, actually, because if you watch his game, I did my daily delivery on him. This dude gets to the rim. He's 6 foot tall. He's not a great outside shooter. He improved it his last year at Stanford, but he breaks down the defense, gets in, and finishes at the rim. So I think he's going to be really good in K-State's open court game. When they want to go attack the rim before the defense sets up, I think he's going to be highly effective in that. His assist to turnover ratio stinks. He's going to have to clean that up, but that might be also a situation where he just wasn't passing it because they weren't finishing the play. So we'll see how it all pans out with him, but I think that's a good comparison because Desi came in not known for his outside shot and then had some periods where he did hit it fairly regularly. But really, he was just a disruptor and a defender and getting to the rim and causing some chaos. And I can see this guy in that exact role.
We've got a few more questions for Tim Fitzgerald, publisher of GoPowerCat.com, which is part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Head over to GoPowerCat for all the best coverage of everything going on with K-State athletics. You can also find Fitz on Twitter at Life of Fitz. He joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline here on our Wildcat Wrap-Up, brought to you by Azura Credit Union. On the football side of things, Fitz, 16th in the nation in the AP poll for the Wildcats. Does that seem about fair for the opening poll?
Yeah, it does. It does. I think that's a good place for Kansas State. Honestly, if it was a bigger brand and they returned their quarterback and so many other players, they'd probably hired Matt. But anytime you lose players at a Kansas State, and they kind of look at you like, well, you'll never come up with another Deuce Vaughn. You'll never have another Felix Indy, DK Uzama. And it happens, and they do the same thing over. So I think 16 is fair. I might have had him a little higher than that, but K-State, like always, is going to have to go out and prove something. But also, if you're Chris Kleiman in that locker room, you don't care. You almost want to be 20th because you want to have something on your shoulder to motivate you a little bit. But yeah, they're going to be a little more hunted this year than last year because they proved they can play at an extremely high level with these group of players.
Earlier this week, Dan and I asked, who is the most important non-quarterback for the K-State roster this year? Because if you're asking of any player, well, yeah, it's probably going to be Will Howard, who has, I would assume, with a great year, an outside chance of ending up in the other Manhattan come December, and with a great year is going to take K-State probably back to a New Year's Six bowl. That's the kind of quarterback he is. So if you look outside the most important position of sport, in all of sports, who would you say, Fitz, is the most important player this year for K-State?
Oh boy, it's hard, but probably Uso at the nose tackle position. I'm trying to get through his entire career without actually saying his entire name. But if he's dominant, K-State's had some really good nose tackles since they've gone to this 3-man front, but they haven't had any one of those guys that if you don't double team him, he's going to get to the quarterback immediately. And from what we're hearing about Uso, he might have taken that step. He might have got himself so physically tuned for this season that he might be about there. You hear the coaches talk about him, and whether it's an offensive coach raving about how disruptive he is, or Coach Tui, his position coach, how proud he is of how much more conditioned he is coming into this season. He's kind of become everything they thought he could become. So I think he's really crucial as being a disruptive force in the middle of that defense so that everyone else can go about their business and get things done. But I think this team's going to be good. I feel like they've got some answers at a lot of spots. And, I've been concerned about the secondary, but then you start hearing talk about the guys that are emerging, and they seem to feel pretty good about that too. So I'm anxious to get to football, guys. We've still got a few weeks to go, but man, I want to see what this team looks like in action. I just really do.
Appreciate you segueing me into my next question, Fitz, which was about the secondary, in particular the cornerback spot. Van Malone spoke to the media yesterday out in Manhattan, and he spoke highly of Jacob Parrish, who saw some playing time as a true freshman and he is the most experienced cornerback back on this roster, even as just a sophomore. Compared Will Lee, the JUCO transfer, to Julius Brents, which is obviously pretty high praise. There's not a ton of experience. There are a couple of transfers in at the cornerback spot. How do you think that shakes out for Kansas State? How deep are they realistically going to be there?
Well, I think you named the starters, and he kind of raved about Will Lee coming out of Iowa Western. He's 6'3", 185. He's got a long wingspan. It sounds like they're very happy to have him out there, and they feel like he can be a guy that takes that Brent spots. I think we saw with Jacob Parrish that he's ready to play. And he played most of the Big 12 championship as a true freshman. And they got some other young guys back there that they feel good about. They're finally kind of getting into the recruiting depth that they needed when Chris Kleiman arrived. They have enough quality young players that can come up, and they don't have to get thrust right into duty. There's always going to be a position where you need someone. But, yeah, I think they feel a lot better on the back end of their defense. And, no matter how much overturn they've had on the back end, I think the fact that Chris Kleiman is a safeties coach in his history, Joe Klanderman, the coordinator, is a safeties coach, and you've got Van Malone, such an experienced cornerbacks coach. They know what they look for in recruiting, and it doesn't matter if there's a bunch of stars associated with them or a bunch of big offers. They recognize immediately when guys can play, and at this point, I trust them because we've seen it happen year after year where someone comes in from the FCS or junior college and looks right at home from day one in the secondary. And it's just amazing how well they've done it with doing that. They've replicated that. And again, Van Malone just raved about Will Lee yesterday.
Last thing I've got for you today, Fitz, and I was perusing the boards over at Go PowerCat this week, and with a couple of the biggest targets for K-State still out there, Grant Bricks, the offensive lineman from Iowa. You've obviously got Michael Boganowski, who we've talked about a bunch, the linebacker from Junction City. How is the vibe around recruiting right now in K-State land? Is it still confident that, hey, we're going to get one of these guys or both of them, or at least, hey, if we don't land them, we're going to be fine? Or is there maybe a little bit of trepidation here for the near future recruiting for the program at the moment?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this isn't going to be a real big class, so they're showing some patience on these guys. Boganowski seems like he's delayed his decision. We thought he may have it done by now or early in the season. It looks like it might drag on a little bit. The NIL adds a whole nother layer of decision making, trying to balance this offer with where you want to go. And I think the general vibe at K-State is they're going to play the NIL game. But if you're a kid that's just looking for the highest bidder, go somewhere else because you're not really invested in the team. I think that's something we're seeing on football and basketball. And I think Bricks is an interesting case. Guys, I just think he's a great football player that isn't that invested in playing the recruiting game. He seems like a kid that just wants to pick the right school for him and go through, if that's Kansas State or Oklahoma or Michigan or wherever, it's all about what he wants and what he feels right about. And I think K-State's in pretty good shape with him, but that doesn't mean they're going to get him. I think both kids are really up in the air, but they're going to be fun to follow here going into the season.
Tim Fitzgerald is the publisher of GoPowerCat.com. He joins us every Wednesday at this time for the Azure Credit Union Wildcat Wrap-Up. Make sure you check out his work at GoPowerCat. Follow him on Twitter at Life of Fitz. We appreciate the time, Fitz. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, boys. Great to talk to you.
That is Tim Fitzgerald, the best of the best, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. We got 1 hour left. Headlines. Our Chiefs training camp report with Mitch Holthus. We'll look ahead to Mariners Royals coming up this evening as well. All that after the news on 580 Sports Talk.
Former
1 hour to go on 580 Sports Talk on this Wednesday, August 16th. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. That's Dan Lucero. I'm Brendan Dworzynski. We've got a short show coming up tomorrow. We'll be on with you after Royals baseball. Day game for the boys in blue coming up tomorrow. It'll be their finale against the Seattle Mariners. Game 3 of 4 is coming up tonight. 6:30 pregame, 7:10 first pitch. We'll send you off to the Royals Radio Network following some 580 Sports Talk overtime coming up late this afternoon. Here in this final hour of the show, we've got our 580 Sports Talk headlines in just a moment. We'll also have today's Chiefs training camp report with Mitch Holthus, brought to you by Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union. Talking about, Mitch teased it yesterday, one of the few players who has been on the roster for both of the Chiefs Super Bowls, 54 and 57, and we'll find out who that is coming up in just a little bit. We'll also preview that Royals game coming up tonight. Again, Royals versus Mariners, 7:10 first pitch. We'll preview that matchup here in just a little while. We will get to your texts as well. Text line number is 785-272-9429, and our YouTube comment section can be found on our channel called 580 Sports Talk. So simple to find. Just go to YouTube, search 580 Sports Talk. We are the first result that is going to pop up that isn't an advertisement. Click on subscribe. Boom. You're that best way to find all of our video content. As football season ramps up, we're going to have more and more post-game for all the games that we go to. We'll try to get some more Athlete of the Week stuff up there. Of course, 580 Sports Talk Daily will get posted up there and is live up there. So make sure you are checking out all of our video content on YouTube. Again, our channel is called 580 Sports Talk. Everything, the show, 580 Sports Talk. Twitter handle, 580 Sports Talk. YouTube channel, same thing. So easy to find us everywhere. So we would love to invite you to go check us out across all of our social media platforms. All right, without further ado, time for our 580 Sports Talk headlines for today. I'm going to go around the NFL a little bit. Some quick hitters from around the league. Unfortunately, this time of year, a lot of injury concerns and a lot of injury scares. And for one wide receiver in the NFC South, the season is already over. Buccaneers wide receiver Russell Gage suffered a knee injury at the Buccaneers joint practice with the New York Jets earlier today. He had to be carted off the field, leaving in tears. His teammates took a knee as the cart drove him off. And Coach Todd Bowles said after practice, quote, "We hear it's going to be pretty serious. I'll wait to hear the final results." It was a non-contact 7-on-7 injury. Never a good sign. Don't know for now exactly what the injury is, if it's a knee or something else. Noted in the ESPN news story about this, Gage actually took less money to stick around in Tampa this year, took a pay cut to stay on the roster. You hate to see it in general. You hate to see it with that caveat as well. So very sad for Russell Gage. Been a very solid player in his career. Never been spectacular, but a very solid NFL player. And hope he's able to continue his career following whatever this particular injury happened to be. In Tennessee Titans camp today, also a joint practice with the Minnesota Vikings, one of their wide receivers, in fact, their number one receiver, Treylon Burks, he went down during joint practice. He caught a pass, got tackled, and ended up hurting some part of his lower body. It appeared to be a left leg issue. He also had to be carted off. Trainers had to come and help him off the field. He was not able to do it under his own power. His quarterback, Ryan Tannehill, said, quote, "You hate seeing that. We'll find out more information and see what's really going on, but hopefully he's going to be all right." I guess he's not technically their number one. That's going to be DeAndre Hopkins. I forgot he ended up there. But that really stinks for Treylon Burks as well, because that is a dude that they need to be good. They need him to step up and be a reliable target, because outside of D-Hop, they don't have anything else in the passing games. They've got Chigo Okonkwo, I guess, had a lot of promise
the tight
last
end,
year.
yeah, Okonkwo. People really like him.
So that is another major injury note to get to today. And the first story that came out today regarding a key player, and this is probably the best player of this trio we'll get to today, Marlon Humphrey, starting cornerback, Pro Bowl cornerback for the Baltimore Ravens. He had to have surgery today on an undisclosed injury. This may have been clarified what the specific injury was, but it is hopeful for the Ravens that he is only going to miss the first month of the season, or the next month, so he would miss the first couple weeks of the season. But not great for the Baltimore Ravens, who are going to need all hands on deck in that secondary. Not in especially strong unit for Baltimore. So they're going to have to hope that Marlon Humphrey doesn't miss too much time. It is a foot injury. I thought I had seen that it was reported on. Ian Rappaport from NFL Network saying it's a foot injury. Surgery was expected to be today. Should just be the first couple games of the season.
And here's hoping, because that's a Baltimore team that I think is going to be really good, especially if Lamar is healthy, which unfortunately he wasn't last year. I tend to be higher on Lamar Jackson, I think, than a lot of people. So I think if he's healthy, they're legit. Like they're a real AFC contender. And missing Humphrey on that defense is a big, big deal.
They're fascinating to me this year because of the addition of Todd Monken. That to me is one of the biggest hires in all of football this year, because we have seen the Greg Roman experience how many times? We saw it in Buffalo where it really didn't work. We saw it in San Francisco when Colin Kaepernick exploded. I mean, whatever you think about him off the field, he was unbelievable for that. I think it was 2 years when he was really at his peak.
Yeah, the Super Bowl year, and then the year they went to the conference championship game against the Seahawks.
Yes, where he ran for 187 yards.
His first 2 seasons as a starter, he was different. Like there wasn't anybody else like him, and that offense was uniquely shaped to accentuate the things that he did really, really well, and he did them at a very high level.
But the Greg Roman experience is that when you get to year 3, you're running all the same stuff you installed the last 2 years, and it becomes a little stale. Then by year 4,
and there's no counter.
Right?
Yeah, you never develop a counter punch.
And year 4, everyone wants to run you out of town. Well, let's go to Baltimore. Lamar Jackson, his second year, he wins MVP unanimously. It's one of the greatest quarterback seasons I can remember, at least in recent memory. Last year, Lamar looked good early in the year, but he got hurt. We never really got to see the full actualization. And even right before he got hurt, the numbers started to tail off a little bit. 2 years ago, not good, but not as great as we've seen him be before. So I'm fascinated what Monken is going to do with that offense, actually wanting to throw the ball a little bit more, because I think Lamar can throw. I know a lot of people I don't think I'm quite as high on Lamar as you are, but I still think he's easily a top 10 quarterback to me, easily. I don't know why people think he can't throw. They ran a pro-style offense at Louisville when he was in college. That was it was an extremely pro-style thing. Like, it was typical 3-5-step drop back passing. He was just the best athlete in college football, so that's why he ran so much. So I don't know why people think he can't throw. I think he can. I'm just interested to see how they're going to make that work. That's a very roundabout way to say they got to have all hands on deck, because I think they're going to push Cincinnati in the AFC North. But that defense has to be able to step up, because they were disappointing for way too much the first half of last season.
First headline for me in our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We discussed when this news broke on Monday that former Ole Miss and NFL offensive tackle Michael Orr was pursuing legal action against the Tui family that famously adopted him, or did they, and were the subject of the book and the film The Blind Side. Orr alleged that instead of legally adopting Orr, the Tui family entered into a conservatorship, when the distinction there is that gives them the right to make financial decisions for the party that is under that conservatorship, rather than just being a member of the family. Or also alleges that proceeds from the film The Blind Side did not go to him, that he made no money from that, was entered into a contract that actually kept him from profiting in any meaningful way from the making of that movie. Very messy allegations, very sad thing to read. And it gets messier today. They've mentioned this in the top of the hour news breaks you may have heard. The Tui family now claims that Orr threatened to go public with his story if they did not pay him $15 million. Attorney Martin Singer issued a statement on the family's behalf that refers to it as a shakedown. The response from Orr's attorney, Don Barrett, is, we quote, "We have confidence in our judicial system and in our client, Michael Orr. We believe that justice will be served in the courtroom, and we hope to get there quickly." This is just sad.
Yeah,
and it's sad that it's going to play out in front of all of us. And whatever the outcome is, this was by and large a feel-good story, even if it was one that was perhaps misrepresented,
Mm-hmm.
particularly on film in a way that Orr has always said was kind of harmful to his perception as an NFL player.
Yeah.
The film made him seem dumb. And Michael Orr is not a dumb man, but they made him seem like a total fish out of water. And it was something that he claims affected his perception by teammates, by other NFL players, by coaches during his playing career, and affected his playing career in that way. But certainly there was some good in the story, at least it seemed on its face. And maybe there was never anything good about it from the beginning. We're going to get the facts one way or another. But it's very, very sad to see this play out publicly the way it has.
The thing about this case, and I don't know if you saw this, but the son, the Tui's biological son, SJ.
Sean, yes.
Sean Jr. Sean Jr. He gave a quote yesterday that pretty much said, I get why he's upset, which if you're the Tui family lawyers, I have to imagine you are not happy with that comment. But here's the thing. If this is all true, there's paperwork.
Yeah.
There is an office somewhere in the state of Tennessee where this is all documented. Like, this is all right there in the flesh in 4K. You'll be able to prove, yes, he did sign this conservatorship, not adoption papers. By the way, I also found out last night, Tennessee is one of the states where you can actually legally adopt someone over 18. You can have adult adoption in Tennessee, which makes these accusations, like, allegedly, even more nefarious, if that is the case, on behalf of the alleged, the allegations against the Tui family. You're right. This is sad. And it sucks that this is coming out in the public light. It sucks that this is what is now going to be remembered of what was for a time a feel-good story, even if, like you said, maybe we shouldn't have felt all that good about it. I know I mentioned on yesterday's show that I had heard, just nothing more than gossip, but I had, read rumors that something was up, that things were just kind of fishy. And like, if you go on social media, I guess some of the family members are very active on Instagram or whatever. And the four biological family members are often doing things and celebrating and out doing stuff together. But Michael Orr, who has been out of football for several years now, is not anywhere to be found. And there's no talk about him, and there's no pictures of him. And it's just odd. Like, odd to a degree where if you were around Memphis or around the families or whatever, you might think, like, I wouldn't be shocked if something was amiss here. Maybe not to this degree, but not really a shock that something was up. But it's sad.
It is.
Don't want to see dirty laundry aired like this in public, unless I guess you're one of those people who just craves that kind of thing.
Right.
Next headline for me, we talked about it yesterday, that Kansas State knocked off the Israeli select team in their first exhibition during their trip to Israel and Abu Dhabi. Well, we found out earlier this afternoon that K-State's men's team is going to be in action again coming up tomorrow.
Yes.
When they will play Team Mexico at, is it Etihad? Etihad Arena in the United Arab Emirates in Abu Dhabi. Team Mexico is there along with other programs like Team USA in the Middle East or the Far East for FIBA World Cup qualifying and international competition to gear up for the Olympics and the World Cup coming up in the next couple of years. So they just got a game scheduled on the fly, I guess, with Team Mexico. I was going to say, like I brought up yesterday, we only knew of one game during this trip. We knew when K-State left on August 9th, they were going to play against the Israel select team that they played and beat yesterday. We were unaware that if they were going to play someone else, we had just been told, well, they're expected to play as many as 3 games, right? At least one. So this is the next opponent. If you want to watch this game, it will tip off at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. So this is perfect. If you want to watch sports during your workday, 8 a.m. K-State, Royals at 1:10. You can have sports all day long.
Love that.
The broadcast of the game will begin at 7:45. You can find it on YouTube. I'm sure K-State folks are going to tweet it out. Media members had this sent to us earlier today. We can tweet it out if no one else does. I'm sure Jerome Tang will, or whoever runs Jerome Tang's Twitter account, whatever it ends up being. But you will be able to watch this game again on YouTube tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock.
Last headline for me here on our 580 Sports Talk headlines. Last night, Lionel Messi played a match for his MLS team, Inter Miami, and Lionel Messi scored a goal. This is a recurring theme, as Messi now has 9 goals in his first 6 matches with his new team, as Inter Miami has advanced to the championship round of what is called the Leagues Cup, a knockout competition between teams from the MLS and teams from Liga MX, the Mexican top division of soccer. 6 games, 9 goals, a whole bunch of assists, a whole bunch of highlights. It's not terribly surprising that the greatest player maybe ever is dominating the MLS, but it is certainly I have seen more MLS highlights on my timeline on Twitter in the last 3 weeks since Messi has been a part of the league than I have maybe in my entire life.
Oh, for me, it's definitely in my entire life. Definitely.
So it's good for the league, right? Like this has to be good for the perception of MLS as a whole that, hey, we got to see this Messi guy because he's unbelievable. And the goal he scored last night, he hit from like 35 yards out and inch perfect. It couldn't have been anywhere else and gone in the goal. And it's pretty awe-inspiring and pretty neat that the greatest of all time is plying his trade in the United States.
I believe, being an outsider to the game of soccer and to MLS, I believe this will be a rising tide lifts all boats situation. Like, I believe having Lionel Messi out there going crazy is going to increase more interest or in some way over time is going to help raise the profile and the quality of play in MLS. I actually believe that. More so than when David Beckham came over or Zlatan Ibrahimovic or any of these guys. I really do think that is going to be the case. But I have seen a number of writers who I follow for other purposes who are also into soccer who have said, this is both really cool because Lionel Messi playing in America full time is awesome and he's the greatest ever. And to get to see this so up close and have the chance to go see it, it's amazing. The downside of it is that he makes MLS look like high schoolers. He makes the rest of the league look so far behind. And granted, he did that to a lot of people in Europe.
Yes,
too.
In Spain and France. Yeah, he was doing that too. That's just how great he is.
But a lot of dang, we kind of have to bump up the quality of play because he's making us look bad.
Yeah.
How good he is. But no, he really is something special. That does it for our 580 Sports Talk headlines on this Wednesday afternoon. When we come back from this break, Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Chiefs, will join us for today's training camp report. That's up next on 580 Sports Talk. 6:25 on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Dan here with you on this Wednesday afternoon. And now joining us on the phone is our good pal Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, for today's Chiefs Training Camp Report, brought to you by Hy-Vee and Azure Credit Union. Ask Haven, Crystal, and Melissa at Azure Credit Union about using the Credit Union Advantage for your home loan. Mitch, happy Wednesday to you. How's it going?
Well, it's in these interesting tests of 3 days in the middle of one of those and doing okay. The weather's been great, but it's very interesting what happens in these 3 days after they play the first preseason game and come back to camp. It's all by design, big test, but Coach, nonetheless, he's doing more and more evaluation.
Really quickly, before we get to today's subject of our training camp report, which I'm very, we hear all the time about how training camp, I believe it was Patrick Williams who said, camp is hell. Like, I'm expecting it to be hell when we get to camp. It is notorious, infamous, maybe just famous, however you want to look at it, that this training camp for the Chiefs is difficult. You and I have talked about that. All three of us have talked about that plenty in the past. When you talk about all the tests and evaluations this week, is this one of the toughest parts of an already tough camp?
Yeah, and because people say you're going back, like why are you guys going back? Well, it's part of the test. Think about this. There's just one note, and we there's a podcast up that Matt McMullen and I did today after practice that people can watch and basically have a further discussion in this. But the Chiefs this year play on 8 exclusive windows. They'll play twice on a Thursday, twice on a Sunday, twice on a Monday. There's the morning game in Germany. And the reason I say that is you would think, NFL teams play Sunday. They get in a routine. Tuesday means this, Wednesday means that. For the Chiefs, it's anything but that. I've seen this now the last couple of years because they're such a high-demand team. People want to see them. And that means they're going to be in these exclusive windows. Well, that means it throws your whole week off, even in the short weeks like Sunday to Thursday. But even if you have a week from you have to figure out what day is this. And honestly, trains for that during training camp. And these 3 days are very much like that. He goes hard these 2 of these 3 days. Tomorrow will be last day of school here and kind of soft. But the last 2 days have been grinded out. But he also knows that a player has got to train himself to think, okay, this is an unusual week. So what does that mean? What is today? Tuesday, but it's really Thursday if you look at it in terms of NFL week. I know that sounds confusing, but if you're going to be a prominent team like the Chiefs are, you've got to be able to adjust to a whole bunch of different things, including the time in which you play and what that means on various days in preparation for that game.
All right, Mitch, let's get to today's camp report. And you left us yesterday with a little tease saying that we're going to talk today about one of the players who has been with the Chiefs for each of the last 2 Super Bowls, the wins in number 54 and number 57. I'm potentially worried that I missed one, but I counted 7 guys who were on the roster for both of them who are still around. And hopefully I didn't forget. Well, no, because he's not here now, but I guess McCole Hardman was there for both as well. Okay, so 8. I can think of 8 names who are there for both, Mitch.
But he's got to be on the current roster.
Okay.
I maybe didn't make that clear.
All right.
They have to be on the current roster.
He's out of here then. So I've got 7, I think.
Bye. Okay. Dan, you jumping in on this?
No, I think he's got him covered. I could come up with 7. But there
judges, hang on, judges. The answer is 10.
Oh,
There are 10 on this roster of the 91 players that played in both or were on the roster, including practice squad, for Super Bowl 54 and 57. So let me go through these.
I bet we forgot Winchester.
Chris Jones. Yep, Winchester. Get your specialists in there. Winchester and Harrison Butker. Mahomes, obviously. Well, let's see. You had Blake Bell.
Oh.
And Nick Allegretti.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the 2 misses usually. Here's one you're going to miss because Jody Fortson actually was legally part of the team.
Oh, yeah.
I think he was on practice squad. Obviously, Chris Jones. I don't know where I'm at, but there's the one that people rarely get. They don't get Allegretti, and they don't get Derek Nottie, just because he's this plug and slug and do what he needs to do the dirty work for the team kind of guy, which is what I'm featuring this week. And he's been, in his own way, just so impactful. 81 games, 69 starts. Pro Football Focus has had him as a 80-plus run defender the last 2 seasons. Somebody's got to plug it and clean out the drain so somebody can come in and clean stuff up. Derek Nottie is a big piece of this team. And again, been around this team for 6 seasons. And so with Derek Nottie, it's a source of pride that he's signed back with this team, but he also knows his role.
It really means a lot being in this organization, being an assistant for so long. I've known it like the back of my hand. It just gives me more responsibility what my job entails, being the anchor and doing what I got to do for this team. It just tells me I got to do more. I got to do more. Being the veteran of the room, I got to take the lead of what I got to do for my job, and I'm making sure that everybody follows and does the right thing too. The biggest thing is to take it day by day. Don't let the negative things bring you down. Where it's just like life, when football practice, have a good play, bad play, whatever it is, you got to keep moving forward. You can't stay stuck on what's going on behind you. You got to keep taking them steps forward and just hope for the best every single time.
I mean, it's, again, music to the ears of a coach like Andy Reid, of a guy that is unselfish like that and does the dirty, grimy work. And that's why he's been here 6 years and been a productive player.
And I think the interesting thing, Mitch, when you say that people often forget Derek Nottie when you're thinking of the guys who have been contributors, have been on the roster during this incredible run over the last few years, I think a lot of times in sports and in football especially, and especially sometimes when you listen to Andy Reid talk during press conferences or whatever, it's not always what you say, but how something is said or the actions that someone or some team take. And by that, I mean, like, people may forget on the outside about Derek Nottie, but there's a reason he has now been signed to this team 3 times. His rookie contract when he was picked back in 2018, another free agent deal, and then another free agent deal to come back. Like, the fact that the Chiefs keep bringing this dude back into the defensive line room, that clearly says that the team at the very least values him.
Well, and this team recognizes that, and then he recognizes the value of being with this team. It's that two-way conduit that we see in a brighter, bigger scale with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. But then you see it with these down-the-line guys like a Derek Nottie. He's valuable, you guys. I mean, okay, 4 sacks. The long-forgotten interception he had against the Chargers in the game that turned the season around in 2019 on the way to Super Bowl 54 championship. That game in Mexico City, Derek Nottie had an interception in that game. There's just times where, and then he had a tackle last year in the playoffs. I mean, a sack last year in the playoffs. So Nottie just has some real value. By the way, Austin Ryder is another one that's missed on that 10 because he was on the practice squad last year too. I think he was active, but he was the starting center in Super Bowl 54. So a bit of a trick question, but still 10 humans. I think I got them all out there.
Our guest is Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs. He joins us for a training camp report here on 580 Sports Talk, brought to you by Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union. Mitch, we talk about character guys, and Derek Nottie seems to be one of those for this Chiefs team. And the evidence that I have to support that point, that Derek Nottie is one of the good guys on this roster, is his work with the KC Pet Project. After both of the Chiefs' Super Bowl victories, he has sponsored the adoption of every dog at the shelter, both in 2020 and then this past year as well. One of the cooler charity initiatives that I think any Chiefs player is involved with. That says volumes to me, also an animal person, about the character of Derek Nottie. But how important is the character of that player and what impact that has on this team and the goal, the hope of acquiring a lot of players like that?
Rarely can a player have a lack of character off the field and then turn it on the field. We see that. I mean, we've seen it with different players and in this franchise. But generally, if you're going to win and you're going to win on a consistent manner, then your guys who show character off the field are the same when they're in the meeting room and on the field. And Derek Nottie's that way. Saw it in glimpses of when he came out of Florida State. I think this goes back, I know it's been 7 years ago, but the vetting of him by the Chiefs personnel department to see that that was part of his package, that you get this guy that is not going to be a pain in the tail. In fact, he's going to be just the opposite. He'll help motivate and he also sets an example for the younger guys. Like, wow, you really did that? Yeah, I did it. And it's genuine. It's coming from his heart. It's not something he does to grandstand. It's something that he does because he's just a genuine dude. And so there's more value, but Chiefs fans don't think of it. You know, if he gets a sack, okay, but they're not looking, hey, look at 91 and look what he's doing to hold down 2 or 3 guys so Chris Jones can go make a play. I mean, we just don't do that with him, but we should. And he's a big reason, no pun intended, the Chiefs have won 2 Super Bowls with him and almost won another one.
You mentioned his leadership and his leading by example, and there are have been young players on the roster fighting for maybe not just playing time, but maybe fighting for his playing time. And there's one in camp like that this year. Now, there are more than one, but there's one drafted in Keandre Coburn, who's a similar kind of player, a big-bodied defensive tackle. What impact does Noddy have on Coburn? What can Coburn learn from observing Noddy and what he's done well in his role in his time as the Chief?
Yeah, and Derek's not the kind of guy. It's not his personality to browbeat a guy. Hey, here's what you need to do, kid. He's not that. Now, if Keandre Coburn is smart, and I'm getting to know him a little bit, but if he's smart, he would soak in like, dude, you've played 6 years in this league. You've played in 3 Super Bowls and won 2 of them. What do you do? How do you do it? How do I make it in this league? I told the story earlier today to a group here at camp. It's what Mahomes did that year he sat out. He just soaked in as much as he could and asked tons of questions. And so if Coburn is intelligent enough, then he will take whatever wisdom Derek out of on and off the field and take it to heart.
We're chatting with Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs. He joins us at this time every weekday during training camp for our Chiefs Training Camp Reports, brought to you by Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union. You were mentioning Mitch earlier, and I think that if you watch this defensive line, you know exactly what Derek Noddy does. If you read the scouting report when he was drafted, you know what his strengths in the league were going to be. It's the dirty stuff. It is not the sexy stuff, the huge stat kind of roles. Chris Jones is the one who gets after the quarterback, and they have other guys who from the inside might get after the quarterback a little bit more, but that dirty work is where Noddy thrives. What else can he do? Or maybe the better question is, what else does he do and has he done that has increased that value on the field to this franchise?
He'll make a splash play. Now, it's not like he's void of making a splash play, but he has in the past, just like the interception against the Chargers. It was a big, gigantic play in that game. But you also have to have run defenders. When we're playing fantasy football and we want something numerically for defense, right? Okay, picks and sacks. What else you got? I don't know. I don't think we have 2-gap control. Maybe we use tackles. Smart if they did. But you don't have 2-gap control and play the run or help to get out to the edge on a play where you don't, if you get the backside, or you play backside containment. If play's going away from me, I'm going to pursue without giving up my backside integrity. There's all smart things where you get a cutback run and Derrick Henry's going for 70 yards because you didn't protect the backside in gap control. Derek Noddy will make some mistakes. He's not perfect, but he's really pretty steady with all of that. And that's just stuff we don't think of as a fan. But I'm telling you, with Joe Cullen and the defensive line coach and defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo, they sure noticed it. To your point, to both your points, the fact that he's been here 6 years and they keep coming back to re-sign him tells you everything you need to know.
Obviously, physicality is always one of the most important things for winning franchises. Like, yes, the finesse, the big plays, scoring points, obviously all important, but you've got to win with physicality, with being tougher than the guy who's on the other side of the line from you. Mitch, as you see more and more of the league, over time, we know it's a pass-friendly league. We know it's a spread it out, 11 personnel, maybe 4 wide receivers all over. Teams are finding a little bit more success running the ball again, and I think the Chiefs did this really effectively last year because they get, 2 high looks more often. They get lighter boxes. They can attack inside a little bit more. So as more offenses are more willing to maybe go back to the running game a little bit, or at least in different ways, do you feel like guys like Derek Noddy or a Keandre Coburn or, the beefy guys inside, do you think that in the near future they might see a little bit of resurgence as we go through kind of the cyclical nature of offense in the NFL?
Well, I think they are they survived cycle changes, there will be 4 of those on every team, 4 interior defensive linemen, and 3 will probably be active on any given game. Although, depending on the opponent, if they're super run heavy like the Titans, you would have maybe all 4 up and you would forfeit one of your edge defenders. But there's always going to be a need for the Derek Notties of the world, whether you're in 5 wide or you're running power football at a 2-back offense. And you see it on every team. Every roster will carve out 4 guys. So let's say the Chiefs have 10 defensive linemen, which right now on August the 16th, I would guess that's what they do. They would probably go with 6 edge defenders and then 4 interior defensive linemen. But there again, you're not going to have 2 or 3 or 1. You're going to have 4. I mean, you need them because even if a team throws about every time, you still have to have gap integrity and pressure, and you can't just get gouged in the run game or people running out of a passing formation, which, as you alluded to, which is what's more and more the league is coming to, and a running quarterback. So I'm going to run it out of a passing formation. I will throw it out of a running formation. And that's a big part of this league right now. You got to be ready for all of it.
Mitch Holthus is the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs. He joins us at this time every day during training camp for our Chiefs Camp Reports, brought to you by both Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union. Mitch, we appreciate the time as always. I already got a little sneak peek at who we're talking about tomorrow, and I am extremely excited because I just said on the show the other day, Dan heard it, I think this new defensive acquisition is in for a huge year. I think he's a perfect fit for this defense.
I'll say this, August 16th, secret weapon. Fans aren't thinking about him much, and he will win a game for the Chiefs this year. There will be one game he will win with a big-time play, and we'll get into that tomorrow.
I love that. Mitch, thanks so much, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
That is Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs. Yes, I don't want to give it away. Don't want to give any spoilers. I'm super excited for who we're going to talk about tomorrow. I think it was Monday's show. I talked about how I think he's going to be a major playmaker for this Chiefs team this year. We have a break we have to get to right now on 580 Sports Talk, but when we come back, we'll preview Game 3 of 4 between the Royals and Mariners. That's coming up later tonight, and we'll get to that after this on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Dan here with you on 580 Sports Talk on this Wednesday afternoon, wrapping things up with you. We've got some overtime coming up at the top of the hour. We'll hear our conversation with Tim Fitzgerald from earlier today in the Wildcat wrap-up. Then we've got pregame coverage for Royals baseball at 6:30, pregame at 7:10 as the Royals take on the Seattle Mariners. It will be getting the starts for the Royals tonight as the opener, James MacArthur, who also saw action yesterday, Luis Castillo for the Mariners. Kind of a rough start to the year for Castillo. He's been pretty dang good over the last couple of months. ERA down just into the threes, just slightly into the threes, 3.14 for the year. Seattle's got a lot of pitching, which actually makes the offensive explosion for the Royals the last 2 days really encouraging because, and I know Hancock is new to the game, but there's a lot of talented pitchers in that Seattle roster. And for the Royals to put up 8 runs yesterday, for them to put up a bunch of runs on Monday, that's the kind of fun baseball I think Jake was talking about earlier in the show that, hey, there are two kinds of bad. There are, really, you could argue a third if you want to say competitive bad is a thing, but there's unwatchable bad and there's fun bad. The Royals, for too much of this season, frankly, were unwatchable bad. But over the last, month, since the break, at the very least, they've been at least fun bad. It's at least a reason to say, hey, they might not win. I might not get the payoff I'm looking for after 2.5 hours when this game ends, but getting there is going to be a blast. And last night, that's exactly what that was, and I hope that continues today against another really good top-end pitcher.
When you are watching a bad team, and Royals fans, unfortunately, have a lot of experience with that the last few years. Goodness knows I have a lot of experience with that as a Colorado Rockies fan. But when you're watching a bad team, the one thing that you hope for is hope that the next few years won't be so bad. You're really grasping at the hope for the future. And so when you're a bad team and you're giving a bunch of at-bats to 30-somethings that aren't going to be part of the future, or the young guys are a bummer, then that's no fun. And that's kind of where we were at the first couple of months of the year. He had Jackie Bradley Jr. OPSing below 400, playing almost every day.
Yeah, he was a Royal.
Yeah, he was. Don't miss him on the Sporkle quiz. One day you will have to do a 2023 Royal Sporkle quiz. Don't miss Jackie Bradley Jr.
Next time you get a cross-section of Brewers Royals on the Immaculate Grid.
Ooh, yeah.
JBJ, be ready for it.
Did he play for Toronto last year, too? Did he get in for Toronto?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah, Blue Jay Royal.
I think
JBJ.
You were right. And Red Sox, of course.
Yes. But there are better answers for Red Sox Royal. Andrew Benintendi.
Franchi Cordero.
That's a good one.
Yeah, he played 40 games for the Blue Jays last year, where he had an OPS of 524, which was still 127 points higher than his OPS with the Royals this year.
But like when you got to watch guys like that get a bunch of at-bats, and when the young guys are like Michael Massey struggled mightily to start the year, Vinny Pasquantino had that long slump that we now know was because his shoulder had gone bad and needed surgery.
Nate Eaton.
Yeah, Nate Eaton was rough. Bobby Witt Jr. even was struggling to his standards. MJ Melendez had a bad first half. Like, that's all a bummer. That just makes it not fun to watch the team because there's nothing good. You're not getting anything from that. You're not getting any hope. Now, with the way the Royals have played really the last month or so, really since the All-Star break, MJ swinging a better bat. Massey really has been pretty solid since early May. He's been plenty solid. He's been really good here in the month of August. Michael Garcia has provided a spark. Drew Waters has swung the bat a little better. Kyle Isbell's been good in August. Like, things like that give you something to grab onto, something to get excited about seeing, because it could mean something. Like if Jackie Bradley Jr. got a hit for the Royals, it didn't mean anything other than Jackie Bradley Jr. got a hit for this terrible team. But every good game, every 3-hit game that Michael Massey, MJ Melendez throw out there, it's okay. They can do it. And they can maybe do this over the long haul. They can be part of a solid core over the long haul. And you're getting that from the lineup. And it is a lot more fun to watch a lineup that can score runs. And right now, this Royals lineup is scoring some runs. And that is fun to watch. The late inning drama, you got the combination of a team that feels like it is scoring a lot of runs and a bullpen that is shaky.
Salvador Perez looked so frustrated last night after Dairon Blanco got thrown out at third base.
What in the hell was he doing? That was so bad.
It was. And, well, everyone called him out for it. He said it was bad. Matt Quattrero said it was bad. It just not a great moment. But again, when the wins, if the Royals, if you flipped around to their record, I think they'd be one of the best teams in all of baseball. They would be, I think they would be the best team in baseball if you flip their wins and losses. But if they were in the middle of a playoff hunt and you give away a game like that, yeah, that's one that sticks in your craw for a while. This one you think about for a day and then you move on because whatever, what's one more loss? Big deal. But I don't know. Again, the bar is so low. It is in the Earth's crust at this point. But you kind of like to see these guys really care about a win or a loss, right? Like, I know Salvy's been around. He has been here for literally the greatest times in franchise history. To see him like actually worked up and into the game late and wanting to win and being frustrated when things are handled poorly and executed poorly in a moment like that, that means something. That should mean something for that to be a focal point. Like, hey, we cannot make mistakes like that. We cannot have mental lapses like that. And I feel bad that this happened. It won't happen again. I'm riding myself hard for this. That's good. This team needs that because even if you're not good, even if you're not a serious contender, you need to act like you are. And I think this team is starting to come around on that a little bit. You have to sustain it long term. That has to be a permanent year-round and season-long thing, not just we're out of it and we're the second worst team in the league. Now we can take things seriously. That's not what I'm trying to say.
It's about having standards.
Yes.
And trying to reach a standard with your play, with your effort, with your fundamentals every single day. And when you're a young player in the league, and Dairon Blanco's not young, he's 30, but he's early in his major league career. You still have to strive to get to that standard. You got to have veterans, you got to have leaders who will hold you to a standard. That's why it meant something when they put the C on Salvador Perez this year, because he is that guy.
I'm excited to follow the Royals right now. That is not something we could say all year up to this point. But
yeah, I've had him on. I've had him on TV like on purpose a lot more often recently than I did back in like May and June.
Before we get to overtime and before we get to Royals coverage on the Royals Radio Network, let's get to a final word right after this on 580 Sports Talk.
In conclusion, we gotta wrap it up.
All right, final word time, wrapping up this Wednesday edition of the show. You're up first, Dan.
Vance in the YouTube comments asked how this Royals team compares to the teams in 2011 and 2012, blooding in a lot of young players that set the table for the pennant winners in 2014 and 2015. There are some similarities, to be sure. Those 2011 and 2012 teams had much better bullpens. They were starting to lay the groundwork in the bullpen for what became HDH. That's one big difference. The other big difference, those Royals had a deep farm system that they eventually traded from to help build up the roster. They had Will Myers traded for James Shields. They made moves like that. This farm system isn't deep enough to make those kinds of trades yet. So those are the differences, but some exciting similarities too with this core of young position players that has been a lot more watchable lately.
Final word for me today. Chiefs, please don't get any more injured. We were talking about Kadarius Toney's injury at the start of the show, all the injuries yesterday. I'm kind of over the injuries at this point. We had injuries in headlines today. Stay healthy. Let's just cancel camp and get to the regular season. I'd be totally fine with that this Sunday. That does it for 580 Sports Talk. Short show tomorrow. We will join you after Royals post-game from their series finale against the Mariners. We've got game 3 of the series coming up in just a moment. For Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. This has been 580 Sports Talk. Overtime is up next.
The Flint Hills